was listening to. Oh, sorry. Is it time for that? I was watching Mac Break Weekly, and they had Doc Rock on, and he said that the Ozbot controls. I think he said Ozbot. I'm confused. It might have been Insta360. The controls are actually better in Ecamm than they are with the native Ozbot application.
They are. I can attest to that.
From audio to video, no feature we won't tweak. We're the Zoom Test Kitchen crew, here to innovate. Join the fun, learn the tech, don't be late. We'll dive into the settings, explore every single tab. Make sure your mic is clear, your camera not a drab. We'll show you how to host like a pro.
What's a drab? Your camera's not a drab. I don't know what that means.
Zooming in, we're testing it all. Live on YouTube each week. From audio to video, no feature we won't tweak. We're the Zoom Test Kitchen crew, here to innovate. Join the fun, learn the tech, don't be late. Whether you're new to Zoom or an expert in disguise, we've got tips and tricks. We'll open up your eyes. From polls to quizzes, we test functionalities. Join us live, see what Zoom does with ease. So if your meetings lag, or you can't share your screen, or if your audio echoes like you're stuck in between, we've got solutions, we'll show you how it's done. Zoom Test Kitchen, where Zoom fun has begun. Zooming in, we're testing it all. Live on YouTube each week. From audio to video, no feature we won't tweak. We're the Zoom Test Kitchen crew, here to innovate. Join the fun, learn the tech, don't be late. So tune in, don't miss out on this best we lead. Every Friday, Zoom Test Kitchen, where you'll succeed. We'll make your Zoom meeting smooth, keep the tech in check. In the Zoom Test Kitchen, we've got your back, no wreck. So tune in, don't miss out on this tech fest we lead. Every Friday, Zoom Test Kitchen, where you'll succeed. We'll make your Zoom meeting smooth, keep the tech in check. In the Zoom Test Kitchen, we've got your back, no wreck. These lyrics capture the essence of what the Zoom Test Kitchen does, focusing on testing and teaching about Zoom functionalities in a fun, engaging way. Zooming in,
I know. I pressed the wrong button. Sorry. Should have known that. Should have known that. Oh, we didn't get the end of the song. Sorry, everybody. That just ruined the whole test kitchen. Hi.
No, it didn't. It's good.
What is drab? Drab means like not looking good, right, Frank? Like kind of black.
Yeah, just the way it was used grammatically is incorrect. So it sounded like a noun.
Yeah. Oh well. Sorry about that. Hi,
Drab
everyone.
is a camera setting.
Drab is a camera setting. I like that. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you all. I just, if for anyone who's keeping track, I'm now in the same meeting 5 times. It's just redonkulous. 3 computers, 5 instances of Zoom, all different, all the liminal stuff and Zoom and Ecamm. Oh my God. In any case, having fun. Mike, how are you?
Doing good, David. Enjoying that A&W root beer.
Oh, loving it. Loving it. How about you, Jason? Did I hear you were, or is that John dealing with Microsoft? Someone was dealing with Microsoft?
Yeah, that'd be me. It's getting better. And other than that, good. Happy spring from Florida.
Happy spring. You're in Florida or are you just to me in Florida?
No, I'm in Florida as well. Up
where
the
are you
road a
located
bit from you. Up at Orlando.
Oh, you're Orlando. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's me, you, Ray.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Right, the trifecta.
Yes.
John. John's frozen or he can't hear me.
I'm not frozen. I'm just a little sad
Oh no.
because some troublemaker thinks it's funny to undermine the technology of Marks and Spencer, which is one of our premium supermarket brands, and I can't get all my posh food delivered now.
Oh, that's not okay. I'm so sorry. I thought you were going to mention that the Pope died, but I'm so sorry about your posh food deliveries.
Well, I can't commiserate the Pope's passing then, can I?
Yeah.
All I am is I'm just thankful that he made it to Easter because he put a lot of effort into getting out of hospital in time for Easter and getting to Easter, and he made it.
And he made it a very, very special celebration, even though he was quite ill, of course. Frank, how are you?
I'm well.
You're not looking drab.
Thank you. As far as I understand, A&W in Canada and A&W in America are two separate and distinct entities.
Really?
Yes.
How so?
That's how they were structured. So
What is it in Canada? Is it like
well, it's A&W, but it's just
ice cream?
they're independent of the U.S.
Oh, it's still root beer. It's just a different company. It's just a different company.
Yes.
Oh, I thought
They
you
still
meant
have
like-
Mama Burgers and root beer, but
Oh, I thought like it was a computer company or something. I didn't know.
no.
Yeah, and a little different logo, but similar type of logo.
Slightly different. Father Tony, how you doing, sir?
I am fine. How are you, sir?
Good. You see how you keep every time I see you, I give you a new title. You've been Brother Tony, Reverend Tony, Father Tony. You're moving up.
That's okay. Just Tony is fine though.
Just Tony. All right, just Tony. And Robert is here somewhere, but I can't. Oh, there he is. He's got a blank screen. Robert's here. Hey, what?
I think I've got the wrong kitchen today.
Oh my God. Someone get a picture of that. Oh, I love that so much. Nothing makes me happier.
It is definitely the wrong kitchen. I'm out of focus, so it must be the wrong kitchen. Something's
No, this
happening
is
with my camera. So,
Perfect. Wait, are you like really like a chef?
I do a lot of cooking, yeah,
Wow.
for different occasions. But,
Most of my food is out of focus as well.
yeah, I don't know what it is. My camera's gone wonky. I have to fix it in a minute.
That's okay.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too. And John Adelson is here hiding in the background. I thought he was traveling today. Lombardi is driving apparently. Cardinal Tony, there we go.
I'm just a traveling man, David, but I'm here and I may jump in at some moment.
Good to see you. Good to have you here, John. Okay, beautiful. So I'm just going to say it. I'm really sad. And not because I shop at Poshmark, it won't deliver. I feel really let down by Zoom. And I'm partially kidding, but I'm also partially really serious. There are two things that they have announced and released that aren't there. There are probably many more things, but the two things that I'm looking for, one is this new group chat feature in meetings, and the second is the recording feature in the app. And like every day, I need therapy for this, but like I update my app every day. I check it, I refresh it, I check my settings every day. I mean, these were announced.
They're supposed to be released on the 14th.
2 weeks ago.
Well, Monday's almost here.
Do you think Monday is?
Monday's a big release day for Zoom. Usually a lot of releases happen on Mondays.
But we usually get release notes the Thursday or Friday before.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just, like, far be it from me to complain. I'm just saying that I get it. If something's not ready, don't put it out, of course. But also, don't announce stuff. Okay. I feel much better now.
If you knew the number of things that I have been tipped off about, which I can't talk about because they haven't turned up yet, you'd be even more frustrated.
Really?
But But here's
An
a
announcement
company that
stuff
just
you
can't,
want.
you know, is just addicted to adding new features, isn't it? I mean, it's just, I don't know any other software company, and of course they can now put them all in the chat YouTube, but I can't think of another software company that does this many releases and adds this many features in just a few years.
Is it
And they're not minor features either, are they? You know,
is it stuff that you have on your wish list, or is it stuff that they've announced that they haven't followed through on?
we could probably take the whole meeting to discuss this, but actually the whole release policy is a really complicated thing. You've got the marketing people who get, no, before that, you get the product managers who are people like us telling them they need this feature, that feature, some other feature. Then you've got the marketing team that looks at the advantages of that. Then the sales team gets tipped off and one of them accidentally mentions something somewhere. Then you've got the engineering team that has to try and produce the product. Then you've got the testing team that has to test it. Then you've got the development team who has to say, okay, well, if you have this product, do we need an API? Is it going to undermine all the software we've got out there? It's an enormous process.
Right. Yeah.
So that was my attempt on behalf of Zoom to make you feel just a little bit more guilty.
Thank you. I'm not sure. By the way, you can see I'm playing with the, I still don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm playing with the chat to see if I can get, oh, see, I'm actually kind of figuring it out now, to make it look a little better. This is the Zoom graphics thing.
Toolkit.
Thank you. So I can make that. There we go. In any case, so what do we have today? What are we talking about? I mean, I don't know that anything has come out. Did you all see that is now airtime? They had a big redo. I guess someone finally decided that wasn't the right name for their company. So for those of you who don't know, was sort of like an easy to use production tool, but in the sense that, well, let me turn the chat thing off. Sorry. In the sense that it really just created a virtual camera for all intents and purposes. So, but now what they've done is, and this is specifically not only for Zoom, but I mean, it's certainly used for Zoom. They now have two products. They have Airtime Camera, which is that virtual camera. So you can, use overlays, I'm sure, and all that other stuff, which honestly, for most people will probably be enough if they need anything at all anyway. And then Airtime Creator adds, what does it add? Airtime Creator, Airtime Camera. Create, record, and share presentations, upgrade your look on video calls, collaborate on multi-person presentations, recordings, and works on Zoom, yada, yada, yada. So it still doesn't have things like, bringing in guests and stuff like that. But yeah. And the camera is a one-time purchase. Oh, it's free until August 1st. I didn't see that. Wait a second. Let me grab that. I didn't see it was free. I didn't want to pay for it until... because I'm not really going to use it, but I can certainly test it if it's free. Opening Airtime. Launch Airtime. Don't have Airtime app installed. Well, no, I don't. I just said I want to get the app. Okay, that's better. Wow, so it's free until August. All right, that's actually, everyone should go grab it, just to grab it. What else?
What does that mean, free until August? Then you start paying in August?
No. So the Airtime camera is a one-time purchase of $20. But if you, I guess, do it now, you get it for free. Oh, I see what you're saying. Right.
You really have to read the small print on those kind of things.
Do I understand what you're asking now. Do I get to use it for free until August, or is it free even after August? Well, I'm not going to give them a credit card, so if it's not free, then you won't be able to do anything with it. But
In the fine print, David, it actually says no credit card necessary.
Yeah. All right. So what happened? Did I get it now? Wait, now I think I have it. Okay. You know, it's interesting. This probably doesn't matter, but because of the name they chose, if you look at the bottom of my screen, my applications in the dock, hold on, let me, because of the name they chose, the applications folder now is it's essentially an airtime folder because it's the first app in the folder, and that's how the folder looks. So that's just a kind of a smart marketing thing.
I'll be releasing AAA airtime on Tuesday.
Right. I mean, this really isn't a Zoom thing, so I feel bad raising it, but let's see.
It could be a Zoom thing, David. I don't know how you've been using it, but with all of the new Zoom tools, even Zoom tiles, you need to be able to feed that into something. So you need a tool like this to do that.
Right.
Is that what you're using it for?
Well, I don't. Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. You could use, I don't know. Let's see if you can do that. That's actually a great question. All right. Log in with browser. Well, now I was just there and okay. Open. Hello. All right. Access your camera. Sure. Why not? And do that. Enable. Okay. Did I enable that? I don't know if I enabled that. Oh, there we go. No, I have to open system settings. Okay. And I have to, oh yeah, I did. Where is it? Camera extensions. No. Where'd it go? Allow in background. That's not, I'm confused. What am I missing here? Well, this is just bad. There we go. Here's a, open this is a, scroll down to camera extensions, click the circled eye icon, enable the switch for airtime. Oh. Okay, look at that. I didn't know that even existed. Okay, I'll put my password in. Beautiful. Okay, so now we need permission. Got that. Okay. Would I like to download the Elgato Stream Deck plugin? No, not right now. Thank you. Okay, now what is happening here? Okay, this is, oh, here we go. Airtime, it hadn't loaded yet, sorry. Here we go. Oh, here's the camera. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. There we go. And, all right, so now the question is, could I use, let me grab the URL for Zoom, what do you call it, for the toolkit. Technically not supposed to look at the back end here, so pretend like you're not looking. All right, I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna close that. Okay. And here we go. Looks, visuals. Plus, catalog, tools, open camera. Sorry, I don't really know what I'm doing here, so I'm just kind of pressing buttons. Yeah, okay. So maybe release of the customs manage team, key one notes, show video preview. No, I don't want any of that. So maybe you can't, maybe with this, with the camera alone, I don't get it. What can you do? Looks. Oh, wait, maybe this is where it is. Sorry. Okay, create a new look. Oh, okay. Add an image, add a background. No, you cannot add a web page. Or what is that called? It's not called a web page. It's called a What's it called? Oh,
Used
wait.
to be.
What? Yeah. Wallpaper, name tag. Yeah, this is very limited. Okay. I mean, if all you need is a name tag, it's great. Or if you just want an image or something, that's fine. It'll blur your image. It'll hide your. That's just keying you out. That's terrible. Shape. Oh, I see. Okay. Blend. What does that mean? I don't know. Let's press some things and see. Pop. Auto. Okay.
Blend, David, actually made your background go black and white and you stayed color.
Yeah, I think that's
That's what
because, yeah, because I have it set to, if I were to do that and then hit blend. Nope. All right, I have no idea what I'm doing. Effects, black and white, pixelize. Yeah, this is just, I mean, oh, well, I kind of like that actually, that's nice. I like the rain. Old film. It's actually kind of fun too. Handheld game console. That's just annoying. Compliments. Oh, I guess this is supposed to make me look better. Compliments. All right. Well, this is fun, but it doesn't look like you can do. You can just upload images. I wonder. I'd be willing to bet with the creator piece, Airtime Creator. I wonder if you could do that. Oh wait, hold on a second. This is Airtime Creator, I guess. I don't really know. It's free to evaluate. Okay. Screen share me. Okay, look at this. We've got a lot more now. All right. Now we're getting ready to play. By the way, if anyone has a Zoom thing, feel free to jump in. I've just got nothing. Feel free to interrupt me. But this kind of is a Zoom thing. So let's see. So we don't want to screen share. I'm not going to do that. Go away. Media, that's just a picker. Airtime video. It's Airtime video. Text, Giphy, more. Draw at draw. Oh, look at that. What do you, so I don't get it. Where do you draw? Oh, that's interesting. It's kind of a neat implementation, actually. It kind of gives you a whiteboard. Can't figure out how to move it, but oh, there it is. Gives you a little whiteboard, and then oops, and then you switch it back to this, and you can draw on your whiteboard. That's actually kind of a cool implementation. I like that. Okay, that's draw, add camera. You could do an NDI. I guess if you sent it out via NDI, you could. I wonder if I could grab now.
That's input, Dave, not output.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm trying to grab the output from Zoom graphics. I'm looking for a widget, a web widget that I can overlay, which I don't think.
If you're sending out, if you've enabled NDI on that, you should be able to bring it in as a camera.
If I've enabled NDI out of this, I don't know that you can do that. I believe the only output you get is the web widget. I could absolutely be wrong about that, but I believe that's the only output that you get is the web widget output. Now I could, if I am grabbing Zoom tiles via NDI. So if I open up, let me open up NDI tools over here. I love that we got new thingy dingies. Is it scan converter? Is that what I want? I think that's what I want. So scan converter capture. Oh, wait a second. No, I guess not. That's not it. Sorry. I want to capture. What do I want to capture? I don't think it's scan converter that I wanted. Because I want to be able to. The NDI is being sent out from that computer. I want to. Maybe it's video monitor that I want. I think that's what I want. NDI. Yeah.
Video monitors should show you all your NDI sources on the network.
Yeah. Okay, there it is. So now, all right, so now let's see if I can add a camera to this. I mean, I could do it as a screen share, but I'm just curious. I think I would need to then grab it via scan converter.
No, David, you should be able, when it says NDI camera, choose that and it should pop up which source do you want to bring in.
I don't think so. Let's try it. Allow. The stream has not provided any data after 2 seconds. No, that didn't work. I mean, I could just do a screen share, I guess. Open system preferences. Airtime. Yeah. Yes. Oh god, I have to quit and re-up it. Okay. Hello. It's still a little buggy, it seems. Let me reset. I mean, start airtime. I really wish, if anyone's listening over in NDI land, I really wish they would change the names of these apps on the Mac. NDI scan converter? What? I don't even know what that means. That's not even English. I mean, it is English, but I don't get it. I don't know what does what, you know? Okay, here we go. No, I do not want to download this. Thank you, though. Release notes. Yes, that I know. Okay. Okay, so now I'm in, this is the studio. All right. How do I get rid of this? Clear. More. How the heck do I get rid of that? Can I just delete it? Oh, you can just delete it. Okay. So now I want to do more. No, I don't. I want to do screen share. There we go. Allow. NDI video monitor. Oh, it keyed me out automatically. I didn't even ask it to. That's a little weird. It assumes that whatever you're putting on your screen, you want behind you, I guess. Okay, it doesn't do that with a text box, but it does it with a screen share. It's kind of interesting. No, I don't want to turn off camera. I want to get rid of this thing. How the hell do you get rid of something? Oh, remove from slide. There we go. Okay. I mean, it works, kind of. You know, it works more than kind of. I could bring in tiles this way. I mean, it's a bit of a workaround there.
It's very slow.
Is it? Yeah.
So if I wave,
and I mean, this was a heavy lift. Also, we have tiles. I mean, if I was running tiles on this machine, that would probably be much better. It's the NDI that's slow. I can tell you that. I've always had that issue because I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to networking. So you can do. I have not yet found a way to grab a web widget, which that would be a nice thing to have, Robert, because that's how you'd be able to bring those chat messages in. Oh, you know what I just noticed? Sorry. So here's my screen share. Over here, I can put it in front. I can put it behind. That does. I just X something. Oh, where the heck am I now? Well, that's interesting. Fade. Oh, there it is. Oh, I see. No, I don't. Okay, I don't really understand what I'm doing here. But but then I can change the dimensions over here, fill entire slide, replace contents, remove some slide. Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Nice, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure that anyone is needing these. So if you're either you're in it or you're not, either you're using a real tool or you're not. I don't know, that's what I think, I guess. John and Rohit, save us from me, please.
I will try. There were some announcements this week in the world of Zoom events. For me, and it seems for everybody who follows me at LinkedIn, the biggest announcement of all was a licensing change. Because until recently, and I will get this wrong, so I won't give it exact, but until recently, you couldn't take an event and then decide which you want to use for licensing. Do you want to use pay-per-view or do you want to use unlimited? You had to choose one, and you could only go in one direction, which caused a lot of stress for people organizing events because you had to commit yourself effectively when you created the event. Am I going to bill it on a pay-per-view or am I going to bill it on an unlimited license? Now, if you're an owner of an unlimited license of a certain size, say you've just got the basic one, so you may have 500 people, say, coming into your event, but you manage to sell 700 tickets, you're now stuffed because you need to swap, because you don't want to upgrade your unlimited license because events licenses last a whole year. It's only the 100 session license you can do monthly. So then you have the problem that you have a 500 seat license, 700 people want to turn up, and you've got to go to your boss or whoever's in charge of finance and say, I need to get a year's license up to 1,000 to fill people into this event. Of course, the other option is you would have a pay per attendee license and use that. And then you would have the problem that if you've already got an unlimited license for 100 people and you do an event that you think you're going to have 200 people turn up and only actually 150 register, you then had to pay for 150 to go to that event. But if only 75 of them are going to turn up and you've got to pay for those tickets, and you already had an unlimited license, you could have used that within the unlimited license. Am I starting to confuse people? Yes, probably. But what I'm saying is you don't have to worry about that anymore. So the fact that I confuse you doesn't matter anymore because the situation is now, if you organize an event, you can use your pay unlimited license if you have one. And I know a lot of people have 100 unlimited license because they can just run lots of little events. And it's much more economic to have an unlimited license than it is to pay-per-view all the time. And a 100-seat limited license, you can cancel it. You can pay for it monthly, you can have it for a couple of months, then you can turn it off again. So that's very flexible. You can't do that for the bigger licenses. But now you can have an event, and it doesn't matter which platform you put it on, because if the event then overflows the license model that you want to use, and you decide you want to go to pay-per-view, or you decide it's paid for and you want to go to unlimited, you now have the ability to change that. As long as you change it before the event actually starts, you have that ability to swap from one side to another. So this probably is not going to worry corporates because a lot of corporates have big unlimited licenses anyhow. But people who are going to run a number of events during the year, if they suddenly come to a point where they decide, oh, we could afford, it would make more sense to go to the other license, they can now make that decision when they like. Apart from that, there are some design changes to the Zoom events portal. They are just gradually making it more interesting, more sexy, and more fluid in the way you lay it out. Of course, they're on a hiding to nothing because there's always going to be people saying, oh, can you have a widget to do this? Can you have a widget to do that? So they're never going to get the perfect system. But at least they're adding new features and they're making it easier and easier as they go along. But for me, it's the flexibility of the licensing that's going to get a lot of people with events where they just don't know how many people are going to turn up, going to make them feel a lot better. And I have 2 announcements of my own I would like to leak to you. Firstly, I have demonstrated a breakout room app because, like many people, and I'm sure our beloved David's going to whinge about this, breakout rooms are fantastic. But if you are going to run an event where you want to run multiple breakout rooms throughout the event, you can only predefine one. You can run one and you can set up a second one while the first one is running. And a lot of people know that, but you can. But if you want to do multiple breakout events, you've got to do it all by hand. And this really hit me 2 weeks ago when we had a networking meeting for a bunch of business people. There was about 70, 80 in the meeting. And the idea was to run 3 breakout sessions so that people, the first one we were given a challenge and the other 2 were like networking, get to know you type situations, breaking the 70 people down into smaller groups. And of course, the standard version of Zoom, you can just say, we want to do it manually or we can do it random. But do it random, you've got no control on what the random is. So if you are shuffling a whole load of business people, there is no guarantee on who's going to turn up in what room, whether it's going to be somebody you've not known or you're going to end up with the person you had last time. And statistically, you are going to get people who are going to turn up with people who weren't there before. And this annoyed me. So I sat down and I dug my way through the APIs and I realized there's enough control that I can get a list of all the people in the room. I can put them into like a little folder database. I can shuffle them and then I can throw them into breakout rooms. And then if I remember which rooms they all went into, when I bring them back out and I want to put them back in a second time, I can shuffle them again, but this time shuffling them to avoid duplicates. And you can do that until obviously you get to a point where there's been so many breakouts that nobody can miss everybody and they all have to start meeting people for a second time. It would probably take me, I don't know, even with Zoom Test Kitchen power, 6 months to a year to persuade Zoom to even look at such a thing. And they would probably say, edge case, we're not going to develop it. But now the answer is, if you've got a problem, you want to fix it, start looking at the API. And so that's what I've done. And now I'm saying this publicly because firstly, I'm really proud that I did it, but also because I'm now looking for other reasons why people would want to use breakout rooms. Now, I have another example. Toastmasters International do training for all their members of the committees that run the clubs. They all get training every year when they get installed in their positions. And for Toastmasters International, you end up with a load of presidents, you end up with a load of vice presidents of education, vice presidents of, anyway, all these different roles. They all turn up at this meeting. And the idea on some of the meetings is obviously to put the people in the roles together. So one edge case I've already got now is I need to work out a way so that you can explain to this app the roles that are available, that are defined, so that the app can then put everybody into the breakout rooms as assigned to their role as another option. So if anyone else has got an idea of how they would want to organize people for a breakout rooms, then I'd love to know and I'll see what I can do. And as a consequence of that, I had a meeting with a lovely guy called Abe, who happens to be one of the main people in the marketplace for the apps, because Zoom apps in the US only, I'm afraid, going to roll out to the rest of the world soon, but in the US only, they can now set up billing within Zoom. So you can create an app, you can get it tested and authorized by Zoom themselves. It then goes into the Zoom marketplace and you can then sell it through Zoom. So Zoom are doing all the billing and they're collecting all the money. So it becomes a Zoom authorized system, not you having to create your own payment gateway and then persuade people to hand over money to you. It's all done through Zoom. And it's multi-level as well. It's not just one level. You can actually have multi-levels of accounts, set on rules you like. And obviously, all these little apps that David keeps looking at, guys, why aren't you making them part of the marketplace? And if you don't make them part of the marketplace, then people like me are going to do it, and we're going to take the market. So if you want to put me out of business, let's see you. If you don't want to put me out of business, that's fine. I'm not worried. I can make apps to do this.
Hey, John, before we go over to Rohit, quick question.
Sure.
There was an app called Twine that we got excited about a little while back. The whole idea behind it back then, I just looked it up, and now it's changed. Now it's like task management and stuff like that. But the idea back then was that you can run speed networking events because it uses breakout rooms. Yeah, people can be tagged with different tasks, and then they can be paired with other people. And is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So as a reference point, Twine might be an interesting look, because they had a really good, I'm not sure why they're now doing AI tasks and notes and stuff like that, but
I, as you probably know, I'm a member of the development community as well as the Zoom main community. So I'm one of the developer champions, and oh no, I'm going to say this publicly, guys, stop doing all these AI apps. They're not clever. They're not clever at all. And the AI is moving at such a pace that by the time you developed an app, the world's moved on. I mean, look at all these apps that were on there, the transcript apps. You don't need any of them now. It's all built into Zoom. Most of the developers I come across are, I can't put this politely, my perception, I may be wrong, I'd love to be wrong, but my perception is all they're doing is doing apps to export recordings because people complain the recordings are too expensive. They're exporting transcripts because they're going to put it to AI. Wait a minute, Zoom's got that built in. There are lots of people, I suppose this is a bit like the way we complain about Zoom. There's a lot of people who look at the API, they find a feature or somebody complains about something that doesn't work, and they think they can make a feature out of it. But a lot of them don't even take the time to understand how Zoom works. So they create apps, which Zoom already does. And I think you've got to be so frustrated, guys, when you get to the end of this process, because you're going to find that Zoom does it already. So why would anyone pay you to use that app? There's a lot of apps going on in the background, which we will probably never know about unless they do a press release, because there's a lot of apps taking this data and integrating it with the back ends of big corporate systems for their marketing databases, their contact databases, their accounting systems. There's loads of apps in that area, which we'll never see because they're transparent to everybody, including the users. And also, if you have an app and it only works in your organization, you don't need to put it in the marketplace. You don't need to make it public because it's for your organization only, for your data only, so it doesn't matter. But there's lots of opportunity for apps. But yeah, if you've got any other questions about apps, I take the view that I'm going to create some apps. The marketplace is so big that if I get competitors, I don't mind. But fair warning, if you do an app that just works within Zoom and doesn't make any use of what Zoom has to offer, and I'm saying this to you, all these people that are doing graphics programs, then David has just proven in the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that you can get a 20 quid app off the internet. It creates a virtual camera. There's no reason for these graphics programs that are in the App Store at the moment unless they make use of what is in Zoom. If they're just going to be pretty apps that work, and change your screen around you, there's no value to them. And I'm having a rant at this not because I'm having a go and I hate people, but because I don't want these app developers to go all through this trouble, and especially if I'm helping them, I'm taking my time as well, but going through all this trouble to create apps that turn out to be absolutely no good and they don't move the whole ecosystem forward. I want them to create apps that do work, that do move the ecosystem forward. Because I said it a year ago, I remember saying it, And I feel justified in saying it now. I said that I think the API and being able to run apps within Zoom is bigger than what's possible with AI. Because AI is going to carry on anyhow. But what you can do with the API is pretty good. You can't do everything. Our friend isn't here, but you can't do coupons in events at the moment because coupons only just come out and they haven't got an API for it. So you can do tickets, you can create an event, you can create tickets, but you can't create coupons in the API. But you can do a heck of a lot of other things. And I love the API. And I think I've said enough. Go on, give me some questions. Catch me up.
Let's get Rohit and Muddy and Robert in. Rohit.
Hey, David. So I think before I get in, I think Muddy had something to speak about the breakout room. So probably it'll be a good segue. Then I can
Muddy,
probably.
how are you?
I'm doing great. And Rohit, good to see you. I look forward to hearing from you next. John, I have a use case. So I was watching on YouTube, heard you describe the breakout rooms, and I was like, I need to jump on live and share, because I was running an event recently where part of the attendees are part of a program and part of the attendees are prospects. And we create breakout rooms, and we want to make sure that we have at least one member paired with the prospects, right? So we don't have all kind of members together and prospects together. We want kind of a mentor in each group. And we have labels. So we're using Avio. It's a Zoom Enterprise, but it's powered by Avio. And so it allows us to add labels. So if we put a tag in all the members, we can define what the label is, which means that all of the members have member after their name, dash member, or whatever we want. We can use emojis or labels. So it makes it relatively easy when I'm in the breakout rooms dialog box. I first create them automatically, and then I can see who Zoom has kind of assigned to those rooms. And then I go through and I move this person from here to there, and there to there, and I'm moving people all around to make sure I've got a member, the rooms are sorted. But if your tool could look or use something in their name, because the same use case with presidents and vice presidents, if I were able to add that in their name, that would be a relatively easy way for the tool to say, okay, everyone that's got vice president. But it's actually the opposite use case. In your use case, we want all the vice presidents together. In my use case, I want all the members distributed across the room. So right, I want one member in each room along with the people that don't have the label after their name. So just another use case. Love to hear that you're working on that as a tool. Definitely lots of opportunities to use breakout rooms in powerful ways. So kudos.
Thank you, Muddy. And that's a good use case. I've had other people say that they want to have breakout rooms, but they need to nominate a certain person that's in charge of each breakout room. So they'll have an invigilator or a moderator or something like that to be in there. And that's possible. I'm going to watch Frank's reaction here, because one of the things I'm trying to do with this app is I'm trying not to understand the identity of anybody. So I've been trying to create it in a way that I minimize as possible the privacy of what the app is doing. So at the moment, the app can only see in meeting information. So it knows the person. It can pick them up with an ID, but that ID has got nothing to do with the outside world. It's just got to do with the meeting. So it's very much dealing with the data in there. But I may have to have an option that it can go and read the list of attendees. So you've got the chance to prepare the meeting. But because of Zoom Marketplace, I can make that an optional field. So if people didn't want the privacy of the attendees to be known to the app, then they would just be able to turn that feature off, and it would have to then deal with the, in meeting, so to speak, it would have to deal with them. So in Muddy's case, you'd have a list of all the people, and you'd have some way to check box that they are one group or another, and then just send them off into the groups. But it's, there's a lot of things I can do, but it's really interesting that a lot of the things that I've been asked to do, I don't have to know the identity of people. And that means this app goes to another level. That means I could have the app running on my computer, but I could bring it to this meeting. because I'm not using anything that's secure to the database of these other people here. It would just know the people, like, your app knows the names of all the other people in the meeting because it's got a participants list. So it's not actually using any more data than that. And yeah, it's also great fun once you're running the app. I'm also running on I'm also doing a graphics app. So, but it's in, how can I put this politely? It's in the camera. So David, how you were using that app just now, and it was overlaying you in the background and all in a box in their app. Now, Mike and I have played with this. What was it, last week or the week before? We can do that inside the box window that I'm in now, inside Zoom. So I'm a layer, the background's a layer, and what I bring onto the screen is a layer, and I can put boxes on top. So I can do all the graphics, but I'm actually doing the graphics within Zoom. So I could automatically do a lower third with my name on it, because the app can read the name of the person who's running the app and just put your name in. Robert, did you want to ask something?
Yeah. Sorry, Rohit. This is just going back to the breakout rooms, if I can jump in for a second.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember, David, you were there at the time, but Jeff once had Andy in, and Andy was talking about a similar thing that he had set up for breakout rooms, where they had this big organization that had their management reviews. And they did exactly what you're talking about, using Bitfocus Companion, pulling down a list, defining a group of people that always stayed in the breakout rooms, and then after a specific amount of time, moving the individuals around so they got to have their reviews from all of the managers, and then take the next set, bring them in, move them around, take the next set, bring them in. So that's another use case if you're looking for use cases.
Thank you.
Rohit, come on in.
Right. Okay. So this is completely different from breakout room. So I had two queries. Probably if I would research properly, I could get answer, but I just thought I'd push it out there. So I just finished an event yesterday. So let me just tell the setup. So it was pretty straightforward. Zoom, everything embedded into feed loop. Feed loop has an embedded inbuilt Zoom API. The first issue I faced was, so I had a musician coming with the ukulele, and surprisingly, the audio settings which we kept was original sound or the live performance audio so that we could hear her clearly. But somehow what happened was, once we selected that in the top right corner, it was not going green. And when we tried clicking it, it said, your Zoom does not support live performance audio. So it didn't work for her as well, and it didn't work for me as well. But I've been using this Zoom otherwise as well, and it has been working. So I'm not sure if it's a Zoom feed loop embed issue, because I've not been in the feed loop side of things. So that's one. The second one is also similar. So how the audience come in is they log in through a feed loop website, and then they go to the session and they click, and when the stream is enabled, the webinar opens there. What happened was, we had one attendee by the name unknown. That person didn't come with the, what do I say? We are not sure how they couldn't come with their name, because the event website needs a login. But surprisingly, the only option I could do was chat with that person, ask them to rename or something. I was not able to extract any email ID from the Zoom side, because I guess the reports come only after the webinar has ended. while the webinar is going, I don't think I can take any report backend or from the Zoom app. So I was just trying to figure out if that was the case. So Muddy, so I noticed regarding the sound, I had decent internet. So let me just check on what Frank has said. Yeah. So these were my two issues I had yesterday when I just finished the event. So I just thought I'll put out here. If it made sense, or I can repeat anything.
Yeah, and it looks like Frank said it's not allowed in meetings with 50 or more participants.
It was
And
a
as far-
webinar.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
it's not
Frank's referring to live performance audio mode, and that's slightly different from what you're referring to, Rohit.
So I tried
Mention
both the
both.
options. So I tried original sound for musicians. It didn't work. So her ukulele was getting cut. Then I tried I know live performances on beta mode. So I tried the original. So the option what we went was this Zoom background noise removal with the low option. So it worked perfectly fine. But I'm just trying to say that the other two options didn't work. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with the Zoom and feed loop API, because I was in the Zoom app and the performer also was on the Zoom app. So the low actually worked. But I was just trying to figure out why the other two options, or actually the three options, personalized audio isolation, original sound, and live performance didn't work. And even on original sound, we tried everything: high fidelity, check, uncheck, echo cancellation, check, uncheck, spatial audio, check, uncheck.
Rohit,
Still,
was the
I was not able to.
musician coming through your system, or were they on their own system? Because
No, so they had their own system and they were on the Zoom app. It was a pretty straightforward. So there was no custom anything. It was a pretty straightforward, just like how we are. They were in the panel side, just like me. Yeah.
So quite often, Zoom noise reduction and sound for musicians is impacted by your operating system. Windows and Mac both have noise reduction, plus many sound drivers, depending on who made your motherboard or your sound chip or your sound card, have utilities that are on by default that will try to limit anything that's not human speech. So you need to go into your either your driver settings or your operating system settings and turn those things off, because now you've got Zoom's noise reduction or audio settings conflicting with the operating system's settings. So you need to defeat those things. So and each manufacturer has a different name for it. There's also Windows Enhanced Audio. There's wide and narrow spectrum audio on a Mac. I don't know, like you didn't tell us those things, so I don't know. But so that can all impact your ability to play music during a Zoom meeting.
Got it. So I'm actually on the same MacBook right now, which I joined yesterday. So right now I've selected the Radio Box original sound. And right now, obviously, when I come on the top right corner, left-hand side of the view icon, if I click on original sound, it actually turns on. So it says original sound of the musician is on.
Yeah, but in your operating system, in the Mac operating system, what is your audio setting there? And what was your guest who was playing the music? What was their operating system and what did they have happening?
Okay. So I've not gone into that detail because it's
yeah,
the same system.
I'm not talking about Zoom. I'm talking about the operating system of your computer or your device.
Sequoia. It's Sequoia.
Okay, so that would be a place I would start my investigation. If I know my Zoom settings are correct, then I'm going to start to suspect my operating system is interfering.
Okay, because it works now. It didn't work yesterday while I did the event. So I'm just surprised. Even for me, it didn't work, Muddy. Even I tried clicking and it didn't work for me. So, yeah.
So how big was the event? How many people were in the event?
It was around, so that specific keynote had around 120 people.
Okay, so I would assume that it wouldn't work. Because the only figure I know is the same one that Frank's brought up, that I know that there's a problem when you get to about 50. So I will assume, until I can be proved otherwise, that something else, that Zoom can be limiting it. But I would certainly have a look at the Mac noise cancellation because, as an example, the Mac interferes with my video just as much as it does my audio. That is a Mac effect. That's coming from the Mac. It's got nothing to do with Zoom. It's Mac interfering with the video signal from the camera to the thing, and Mac does that everywhere. They're all trying to be helpful. They're all trying to be helpful. But just the point on your person joining, you can get people that will turn up to a meeting, and I can't remember what the time is now. I think it's within half an hour of the meeting start, or is it 10 minutes? But if they come to the log-on screen, the registration screen, they can put anything they like in the registration screen and just jump straight into the meeting. So I'd also check what your rules are for people registering and joining the meeting. People can get in at the last minute without effectively registering if you let them. So you need to turn that off as well.
Yeah, I think that was fine. I couldn't extract any, even if they come last minute and register, that's fine. But I'm sure they would have entered some values while they come in, right? I couldn't extract that data real time when the webinar was on. So that was my.
If you're registering them properly, then I expect you to be able to run that report. I have meetings, and we will run that report 2 minutes before to see who's coming into the meeting, so that we know what the numbers are.
No, so okay, so I'm not. Probably I'm explaining it wrong. I'm not looking at a registration report. So let's say I have 200 people registered for a webinar, and the webinar is live, and after 20 minutes, I have around 80 people in the webinar. I can't extract the data of those 80 people who have come.
You can't tell who those 80 people are who are in the meeting, as opposed to comparing them to the list of people you thought were going to turn up. No, not without an app. Oh, I better write that down, didn't I? It's tricky to do, but yes, I could do it in an app. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd have to.
The only option I had was.
I'd have to go into the list and then go and demand that Zoom hands over the list of people and get their real email addresses. So it would be limited, but yes, you could do that. That is something we've been thinking of. That was one of the spin-off of the breakout room things, was to start keeping an eye on it, because there are quite a few apps already in the App Store, just to show that I support other people that do timekeeping and apps like that. So they've used the data to monitor how many people have turned up to a meeting and how long they've been, etc. So that sort of information. In fact, have a look at those apps, see if one of those apps would actually sneakily be able to sort the problem out for you. I hand over to Tony.
Okay, before I ask my question, Robert, is your question related to the same topic?
I just wanted to comment to Rohit on the two questions that he'd asked, if that's okay, before you change the topic, Tony.
Sure.
Rohit, my experience with webinars is that there is no limit to the number of attendees that are in the webinar that limit the original sound for musicians, because the original sound for musicians is on the side of the panelists and not on the side of the attendees. So you can have as many attendees as you want. It makes no difference. That is my experience. However, having said that, I have seen what you're referring to, and I'll tell you where I've seen it, is when a panelist comes in a browser and not in the app. Now, the browser, as far as I know, doesn't support the original sound for musicians. So, and it's really hard if someone isn't technically orientated slightly to get them to differentiate whether they came in the app or over the browser. So I would start by looking at the basic, really basic stuff before you got in too deep.
Yeah.
Now, why on earth that happened to you during the same meeting, I have no idea, because I'm assuming that you were in the app.
Yeah. So yeah, right now I'm in the same system which I did. So like you said, I agree with that. It doesn't depend on the attendee, because I have done another 900 packs webinar like last year for a Indian musician. So this yesterday's event was a US Canada based event. So my question was, is there any settings to disable this in the Zoom web application? Is there any checkbox? Because I've not seen that. That's the only thing which comes to mind. If the enterprise has automatically checked out these options, so that's exactly why it didn't work for me. So
Oh, so you weren't using your own license, you were using someone else's license, were you?
it was the agency which I was working for. It was their enterprise license. So I just want to know if there's any backend which had been disabled from them, like how we can disable co-host and auto transcript. So
I don't remember at the top of my head, but that's something that can be searched very easily. And going back to your second question, oh gosh, now I've forgotten the question.
just regarding getting the attendee
registration
details. Yeah.
Everyone's right here. You can't get the list of registrants until the end of the webinar. However, what may have happened is that if I'm not wrong, and in the enterprise license, you can switch off the registration form after you have started the webinar. In other words, attendees can't register after the webinar has started. Now, if someone shared the link as a panelist, and I don't know if that person jumped in as a panelist, then he would have been able to get in if there weren't any other restrictions as a panelist.
Shall I just jump in?
Yeah,
so
okay.
none of the attendees had any Zoom link. So like I said, right, all of this were embedded inside the sessions or the agenda inside Feedloop. So everyone had just one link to join the event page, and then they have these agendas or sessions in the left-hand corner where they click and they choose which session they want to join. So none of them were given any Zoom link. Yeah, so that's exactly why I was trying to. So all the names which we extracted were like since it was embedded inside Feedloop, we got their names directly coming from Feedloop, like the name which they registered for that event. So when I had someone called unknown, I was not able to find who that unknown was while the webinar was happening, apart from chatting to them and asking them. And I can't do a one-on-one chat until they message me, right? So the first message they should do for me to send them a direct text if it's a webinar. Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that one.
That's fine. That's fine.
Tony, you want to jump in?
Sure. I've asked this before, but I'm asking for a little bit more help in trying to resolve the situation. If everyone that's on the panel today can share with me what is their primary camera that they're using today for Zoom, and if they have another suggestion for me, because I am using an iPhone 14 Pro Max, and I'm having a lot of trouble lately with adjusting it so that it's level. It's always a little bit crooked no matter what I do, no matter I've taken the frame that it's in out and made sure that it was level, and it's just not working for me anymore. So I have to come up with another solution, and just would ask that if you guys could just share with me what you're actually using, and if you were in my position, what would you look forward to trying to get to resolve it?
Muddy, you didn't even need to raise your hand. I was throwing this to you anyway.
Well, the first thing I would look for is a different kind of stand for your current camera, right? So you're using a phone, and it sounds like the stand that you're using for the phone isn't keeping the phone level. Am I understanding that right, Tony?
Yes, it's a frame iPhone holder that sits in the back of my teleprompter. So
On,
it
on the
sits on
back of
top of
the teleprompter, does the frame sit on top of a ball head between
no,
the
it sits on
so
rails.
okay, so one thing you could potentially do is add a ball head between the teleprompter mount and the camera mount, right? So the camera is in a case that has attachment points. Um, and I hear you saying that's on rails, but if you added a ball head, you could then loosen the ball head and adjust it kind of in any direction and tighten the ball head back up. And that,
Apologies. It does have a ball head on it. The frame does, but it's so loose. It's difficult to adjust it so that perfectly uh, it's perfectly level. The other issue that I have with it is that I'm using the Blackmagic camera app to use as the camera, and I'm having to take it out of the frame, put it back in the frame, probably every 12 hours or so. And so I'm surprised that it hadn't gone out since I've been on today because I hadn't reset it today. And the other issue is that I'm trying to find a solution that will also work with the ATEM so that that's part of the reason why I hadn't
right.
really seriously looked at the Insta360, but that's what everybody is saying, Insta360.
There
And
is there is an option. I mean, ultimately, what you want is you want it to have an HDMI feed, so it'll work with the ATEM, right? Because the ATEM is an HDMI based switcher, so you need a camera that'll have an HDMI signal. Now, I've had great experiences with the Sony line of mirrorless cameras, the ZV E10, the A6000, 6400, 6100, and you can often find those used for less expensive prices. Now, those are kind of mirrorless professional looking cameras, but this camera that I'm using right now, I think I turned it on, I don't know, 6 years ago and never turned it off. So, it's relatively stable. Every now and then I have to flip it on and off, but that's easy to do. For the most part, it's on 24 hours a day and runs for months. But what I was going to tell you is if people are really telling you the Insta360 is the way to go, and I've got one right here, they do make a converter that will convert a USB webcam signal to HDMI. The problem is it takes the computer out of the loop, and so you don't get all of the benefits of the Insta360, being able to kind of adjust the frame and zoom in and zoom out and all the great controls that you have through the software. You essentially lose those if you run it through this converter. So, not to mention the converter is like $150 or something. It's not inexpensive. So once you get to that point, I would recommend a Sony mirrorless camera, and I'll put in the chat a couple of the recommendations. The ZV-E10, not the Mark II, the Mark I. But then some of the previous generations I've found used for $300 or $400. So, not much more than what, a webcam price would be. So
thank you.
Well, you ask what we use. So right here is the camera that's on the Mac, and that's what I'm using there. Or I could use my fancy other camera, which is this Insta360, which is way up there. And, they're both acceptable for a Zoom meeting. I'm hearing what you're saying about not being absolutely level. And I'm looking at your screen right now, and I'm thinking, if Tony lowered his chair 2 inches and then tilted the camera down so his head was fitting right, then we wouldn't see that it was slightly off of that thing behind you. If you have no parallel lines behind you, nobody's going to notice if it's slightly off.
So
My 2 cents.
Move the TV.
No, just move your chair down just a little bit.
Okay.
Anyway, my 2 cents. Go, John.
Or if you don't want to move the chair, Tony, you can go ahead and just put little pads under the TV and get the straight line. But just coming back from NAB, the thing that I would go with is the Osbot Meet 2, which is a 4K camera, and I think it's 129. I could pull this website if you want, or I'll just, if we have chat available in this, I'll stick that in there, and then
Please do.
use the tool that they have to convert that to HDMI for your ATEM, but then go ahead and get the remote that still lets you do remote control of the camera, even though it's plugged into their device. Sony cameras that are used are good, but it's a whole nother level of setting and doing things. But I would go back to the mechanics. Small rig has some very good features or adapters and cages where you can actually make sure your camera is physically attached to your prompter and it's parallel on that. Then you can put a bubble balance on your prompter so you can see whether it's tilting left or right. And I'd switch to Shoot or something that you can control remotely, so you don't need to go to the Filmic Pro. Shoot will do everything you need to do to get you onto a Zoom call.
Dr. Wilson, I actually have moved from Shoot. I'm not using Shoot anymore. I'm using Blackmagic Camera app, and I actually am able to control it. I just can't make it level. So, like right now, it's on the iPad, and I can zoom in and out. But if I go all the way up so that you don't see the TV, my head is really sort of cutting off, right?
So what you're saying is it's the iPad, it's the iPhone itself that you can't permanently
I
make
can't
level.
get it. I can't
And
quite
the
get it
reason you
level.
can't put that mechanical connection is that you have to take the iPhone out and back in to reset it. And
Yes, it's I have to do it so often. It's really frustrating. And
but there
then
probably
each
are a way
time
that
try
you
to
can
line it up.
mechanically fix it so the phone is permanently attached parallel to the screen on your prompter, and then still have access to being able to turn the app on and off without needing to physically move it. That's what I have with one of the systems with the state parks. The phone is physically, we did it through basically a case and epoxy. And so the case is epoxied on to the teleprompter. You could still get the phone in and out, but normally the phone never leaves. We could charge it in there. We could turn it on. We could do everything you could do with the phone with not detaching it. And that was just getting an iPhone case that would let you pop the phone in and out. But that iPhone case was physically attached to our teleprompter through epoxy, so it was perfectly level with the viewer in the screen.
Okay. Thank you. Can you send me those links in the chat or Discord?
Yeah, I'll send those links. But if it's only a mechanical thing, your challenge is if you take it in and out, you're almost guaranteed to move it around no matter how tight you do it. So maybe we could solve the problem of fixing it so you don't have to take it off. That's what we did with the parks. And I don't know if I have a picture of the park one, but I'll send you the other links that I mentioned.
Thank you, sir.
And you and I have to have a call anyway later, so I'll chat with that too.
Thank you.
And we just share very quickly, Tony, I put those camera models in, but all of those cameras that I have all sit on a ball head. So it would be very easy to have any of those cameras also have the same issue. And so one thing I have found is there's a range from little mini ball heads that are cheap and tough to tighten and just kind of have one adjustment up through some larger. I was just trying to take one off. The ball head that's over here is closer to the size of a racquetball. Like it's a much bigger, beefier ball head, but it's also much easier to adjust. And that one, in fact, has a little handle that comes off it. So I can kind of hold the handle and help adjust it while I'm screwing it to the other. So anyway, it doesn't solve the frustration of having to take it in and out, but regardless of the camera, you may still have an issue with needing a little better and beefier ball head adjustment there to make sure that it stays level.
Thank you.
Tony, I just wanted to add my little 2 cents here too. Are you using the Elgato prompter?
This is the ICANN 12-inch.
Okay. Because I was going to suggest if you're contemplating camera, then if you already have the Elgato prompter, then I would actually, by default, in your scenario, if you're going into the ATEM, that's a different story. But if you're going directly into a Mac, I would go with the Elgato matching camera with the prompter.
Thank you, sir.
But if you're going into the ATEM, that's a totally different scenario. So you have to get an HDMI based camera.
Or that dongle that I think Muddy mentioned before that what's it called? It converts USB to HDMI.
UVC to HDMI cut.
Yeah, UVC. Thank you.
Yeah, you can always get the Elgato capture card as well if you wanted to.
Well, no, capture card. No, that's the other way. The capture card takes HDMI, converts it to USB. To get a USB,
sorry.
There is a thing. It's just
Yeah. So
I
Osspot
just
is
put
selling
those
their own
links in
converter.
the.
Yeah.
I just put the links for the UVC to HDMI adapter, which Osbot is.
But that one is more expensive than $150, the Osspot one. I think it's slightly on the higher side.
The Osspot one right now is, what is it, $170. So it's a little more expensive.
And I've owned a couple different models, and not surprisingly, they're all the exact same physical product with a different label on it. And this is one. And so what it takes on one end is it takes power, it takes the USB-C for the camera, and then there's a USB-A port in the middle that if you have a remote control for the camera, you can put the little remote control dongle. Some of those remotes have a little, dongle that you can then put in the middle. And on the other side, it's just the HDMI. A little difficult to see in this lighting, but it's just an HDMI. And so where I have used these with the best experience is where I've used it with an Osbot camera that I have a remote control for. So that way I have the USB going in, HDMI going to the switcher, but now I have a remote control where I can still adjust the camera, pan, tilt, zoom in, and things like that. So I guess one other quick thought is the Insta360 Link has a phone app that you can use the phone app to adjust the Insta360 Link. I don't know if that would work if you did a direct connection. I don't know if that has to go through a computer for that. So that gives me something to test when I've got a spare minute. But just another.
Muddy, do you know which Insta360 is? So I'm on the website right now, and they're talking about the new Insta360 X5.
So that's a little different between the Insta360. The X5 is their 360-degree camera. That's not what we're describing. We're talking about the Insta360 Link.
If you take a look on the screen here, I'm holding the box up.
Yep. So John's got the 2C. This is the 2. So actually over John's left shoulder is the Insta360 One on his computer right behind him.
That's
mounted.
right. And also, but I say if I had an unlimited budget, I would go to the Ivy, which is right behind me. So I use all of the different ones.
Just to clarify, the one over John's shoulder is Insta360 Link, not the One.
That's right. The Insta360 Link,
which is what this is right here. This is
the Insta360 Link 2, which is a slightly different form factor. And then John was just holding up the Insta360 Link 2C, which is the same camera, but it doesn't have the swivel. It doesn't have the swivel head on it. It's just the camera on a kind of fixed mount.
And my favorite one is this one, which is Insta360 One. And
it's the device Insta360 Link.
Excuse me, Insta360 Link. Yeah, the One is actually another one. But what I like about this one is I'm using the Mag 2 mount. So if you watch slowly, I will place this on my screen. So that lets you place the camera anywhere you want on the screen.
What is that?
Pretty clever.
Mag 2 mount?
That's a Mag 2 mount. It's made by Plexicam, and it lets
I remember
you.
them. Yeah.
And it's where it's particularly handy is I have a 43-inch LG monitor that is actually 4K, but it has four 1080 1080 windows. I could do four screens. So I actually place that on the screen that I'm using as my teleprompter or direct eye contact. Yet I have all the other screens that I need to be able to look at it. Then also, when you stick the camera in front of things on a screen, you're blocking what's ever behind it. But I was able to figure out how to do blending. Essentially, I move the gallery. I take the image that's the gallery image and end up splitting it so I could actually have that camera right in the middle without covering any of the gallery. So there's lots of ways to skin the cat. The cheapest way, and that's what we found was the part was called epoxy and a cheap iPad case bolted onto the back of the gear because they were backpacking the stuff in and nothing was going to keep it. And all the balls, if you're in a controlled climate, but if you got it all set up at your home and then it was normal temperature and they went out and it was only 6 degrees where their home was 72, metal expands and contracts. So epoxy became our hero.
John, did you say that was magnetic?
Yes, it is. The Mag 2.
And then how does it hold to a screen? The screen isn't metal, is it?
There is enough metal in various parts of monitors and the way that they've done it that it sticks on the majority of monitors, and they even have a little way of fixing if your monitor doesn't work, putting something behind it. The only downside on it is a magnet. It is physically touching your screen. So you have to be extremely careful that you don't have any dust or grit behind it. So whenever I move it rarely, and whenever I move it, I make sure I have my handy dandy microfiber cloth to make sure that all of them are within arm's reach.
Could you put the name of that thing in the chat, please?
Yeah, let me go ahead and get that real quick.
So Tony, I just wanted to add too that, it's nice to have a PTZ, and it's nice to be at least minimal to be able to have some sort of zoom. So as you're pinching and such, like you were doing with your current camera, the PTZ portion, of certain models would become useless behind a teleprompter. So that would definitely take into consideration as well. The zoomable, even if it's digital zoom, great. It's better if it's optical zoom as much as possible that you can control, because it won't artifact on you as quickly, because digital will.
Thank you all.
And Tony, your window looks just fine right now, I think.
Yeah,
Nobody knows you're crooked.
Yeah, it's masquerading just a little bit because of the fact that you took out the top portion, Tony.
I can see if I can lock the focus on me. If that improves it, does it?
Let's see. We're going to spotlight you, Tony.
Looks good.
Yeah. So the focus is on me. It's on my face. So.
Yeah. Make sure it's your face and not your cam and not your mic, because your mic is a little closer. So the autofocus would go off. Would like to attack that more.
I'm gonna take it off and push this back just a little bit.
And I'll lower my hand, but I just put into the chat the direct link to the Mag 2 display safe magnetic webcam mount by Plexicam. I also put the link in for the Ivy, which I think is the best teleprompter eye contact that has the camera built in, designed by a world famous eye surgeon. And above that were the two items from Ozbot. Right now I use the Ozbot Meet 2 using the mag mount on another system. And I'm speaking on an old Huddle HD cam with HDMI out currently on this setup.
Okay, I have all the links. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, Tony, I don't know what happened to your audio, but it dipped a little bit. I don't know if that was just you being quiet.
No, that was me being trying to
Oh.
talk in front of the microphone. I was
Yes.
clicking on all the links, and I had moved up because I'm clicking on the links on the MacBook. And
Yes. So
not-
always keep that in mind with that Heil,
Yeah.
how sensitive that is to wanting you to be right on it.
Yes. Okay.
I've noticed that about your mic, is that if you're even just a little bit off, and now I always think about it with mine because but if you're just a little bit off, it's really very sensitive to that.
And you'll notice that the your different frequencies will start to drop off as well. David, as you're talking more into it, we're getting your full
Right.
voice. But as
Right.
soon as you start doing the sideways stuff, all of a sudden now
Sure.
it's starting to lose it already.
Although I was told by Alex Lindsay that you don't need to have the mic like right in front of you. Like it's okay for it to be just off to the side a little.
True. But what you have to make sure is you're compensating that you're not moving the mic at that particular point. If that's the way you're going to have the mic, then have the mic that way. Then you have to adjust your settings in the back end accordingly.
Right.
And I realize people who are doing YouTube don't have access to our chat, so I'll do it quick. This is the Mag 2, and you could see basically that's the magnetic part, and then you could stick any camera that you want there. This to me is the best eye contact device you could get, because every teleprompter was built to have you read scripts on a glass with a camera behind it, where this was designed from the ground up to have the proper lenses so that your eyes are focusing on the eyes of the person behind them. This is that OSBot device, which is a little expensive, as was mentioned. And let's see if I get here. For me, this is one of the most amazing small cameras at NAB. I really like both the instant links and the OSBot, and it's really a software decision because they have very different software. But I've very impressed with the OSBot Tail Tall 2, which is an NDI camera. So that's why I went to that one.
I've really struggled with the OBSBot software. Really had a difficult time with it. I don't know why. It might just be me. I'm not blaming them.
What version of it are you on?
Goodness, I don't even know. I mean, I can never upload the update the firmware or anything. It's just terrible.
Because you're on a Mac.
Maybe.
Yeah, there were some problems, but they're getting better. They're definitely getting better. But if the current version of software has been pretty bug proof, but I will admit my first 3 or 4 cameras, I had to go to my Windows machine to update the firmware.
Yeah. And Muddy's saying he prefers the Insta360 software, and I agree. Yeah.
Well, thank you all. Appreciate it.
What else do we have, folks? I mean, I can share a toy. It's not a Zoom thing, but it's actually sort of connected to what John was talking about making your own apps. only if we've run out of Zoomy goodness. Is there more Zoomy goodness? And some of the people here have already heard this shtick, so I don't want to.
So when is the next new announcement coming out? Do they have it planned and scheduled ahead? Do we know? Or does it just happen?
We usually get a few days notice. Let me look Zoom release notes. We usually get a few days notice. I have not seen, I mean, I've actually gotten a few updates, not updates, sorry, a few messages about updates, but they've all been just changes in the change log. They haven't been, so there's no upcoming release that is scheduled right now that we can see at least. I'm sure there's one that's scheduled. We just don't know about it. The last one was on the 21st. And this one had a few different iterations. I think there was a thing with the iOS. It was just an iOS update, I believe we got today or yesterday.
Are you spotlighted? I seem to have lost you somewhere.
No, I'm not. But there's nothing really to spotlight, so.
Okay.
Lois, I think it'd be understanding how they do this is that they have their release of the software and then you get the announcements and then you get a note that says there's a new version and you upgrade it and it tells you why you're doing it. Then various customers, like I think Frank, you get some of the pre-announcements or you see stuff in the community. Then there are people who are part of beta teams. So they actually are experimenting with it, and sometimes the beta, they have to be non-disclosure and not indicate what they're doing. Sometimes they're allowed to share what they're doing. So most people can sort of get an idea of what direction they're going. But the official route is, they try to announce when updates will happen. They try to say when we release, but sometimes they'll miss a date or something will happen and then they'll release it later. I think Zoom is one of the best ones on doing that. Probably the worst is for me at the moment is the Lenovo computers that did a change to their BIOS that really messed everything up, and they didn't admit there was a problem for many months. And then when they fixed it, it broke more things than it fixed. But people have good days and bad days, so I don't judge anybody on their best day or their worst day.
Is there a place on the website to go and look for those kinds of announcements? I know they don't do like a monthly newsletter or anything, but is there a place you could just tuck a URL away and go check it once in a while? If so, does somebody know what it is?
Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, Frank.
So the things that you could probably get access to are the release notes, and you can subscribe to them, so you'll get an email when there's new news about release notes. The thing is, like David mentioned earlier, they've been revising the same release notes for about 2 weeks now, and unless you want to go to the trouble that Ray goes to, which is he has a script that compares last time's release notes with this time's release notes, they don't highlight in the release notes what's been updated. So unless you have a really good memory or you want to do a compare and contrast, sometimes they're just fixing grammar or punctuation. So it's really hard sometimes to pick out what's changed in the release notes when they're identical a week later.
Yeah, it sounds like we need to have a talk about how technology can help us with our memories. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a great discussion. But just to bring me at least back full circle to where I started, it's also frustrating. And again, this is like first world problems. Like I shouldn't even be complaining about it, but it's also frustrating when the release notes aren't reflective of reality. When they say that something's coming out, like I'm here in my settings again, looking to see if there's any update about the chat thing, and there's nothing. It's just, if it's not coming or if it's not here, don't say it's here. I got an email just before we got on here from someone in the state of Florida that I work with saying contracts for next year's X, Y, or Z are due now. I immediately logged on. I went to fill it out and it wasn't there. And so I wrote her and I said, where is it? She said, oh, first you have to get a score, and then you have to do this, and then we'll set that's just an automated message. You know what? Unautomate it, or set up a filter, and only send it to the people who can actually act on it. Same thing with Zoom. Go ahead, Frank.
I've complained about this on more than one occasion. I believe that there were some major changes to how Zoom does its documentation. I think they tried to bring in AI to be part of it. I think they moved some staffing, human resources around, and I don't feel it's as good as it used to be.
Do you think AI is now doing some of their notes?
I do.
Wow. Okay.
Well, the Zoom API is just read from the code when it's made from that. So there's lots of automation already built into the system. But unfortunately, when it comes to that sort of thing, a lot of software companies do that because that's to encourage their software developers to actually put notes in the code to say what it really does. Because if they don't get their documentation out. So it's actually quite a good trick, but it doesn't always work.
One thing I've noticed is that the Zoom release notes and the other support notes used to have a lot more hyperlinks to relevant support articles, and it's not as deeply hyperlinked anymore. And there used to be, I would say, more graphics, screenshots and things of what settings would look like or where to look for things, and I don't see those. And I could see a management team saying, our software evolves so rapidly, the screenshots will be out of date in 4 months. Let's not go to the effort. But as an end user who's administrator for quite a few accounts, I really liked having all of those things to hyperlinks to more resources, and the screenshots were really helpful. But I understand that's expensive. Documentation's expensive, and a lot of companies try to cut costs where they can.
Anything else, folks?
Hey, Jason.
Go ahead, Jason.
Hey, Lois. Yeah, question with the AI and some of the automation. Are you all aware, or do you use the AI to do any automation on pulling reports? Because that's still a pretty manual process for me. What am I missing?
Pulling reports?
Yeah, after an event, I'll pull a registration report, I'll pull an attendance report, I'll pull a polling report, a Q&A report, those things. And they're all CSVs, right? So they go in a queue, you get the little spinny wheel circly thing, then you click the button, it downloads it, you get all these CSV files and bring it into Excel. And then once I've got it in Excel, then I can take it from there and automate. But, I already get an email that says, hey, your recording is done. So I could use that same email to say, hey, your reports are ready to be pulled. But it's like, why do I need to log in and pull all this stuff? Like, I should be able to automate that one way or the other and just grab that stuff because I need it after every event.
That's interesting because aren't the like the transcripts and the AI those are all automatically emailed to you also, aren't they?
Yeah, right. So that's why. What am I missing?
Huh. Oh, that's really interesting.
John, your microphone's off.
Sorry, I double clicked, got excited. Yeah, it's possible with the APIs, and I know a lot of corporates who have back-end systems take the data out. There's a number of webhooks that allow you to just wait, and Zoom will send you a little kick, a little nudge to say that something's happened. So an event's happened or event's completed or something like that. There's lots of different nudges you can get. And then once your piece of software's got the nudge, it could go and get those reports. That's why I made the comment about all these people writing these programs to go and download all the data and stuff. I don't see any point in them doing that. But the people that are doing it and then pulling it into their corporate CRMs and all the other corporate applications that are out there, they're all doing that automatically. It would be nice if Zapier could keep up, but I don't
Well,
think
that's
it would ever would.
right. That's what I was like. Okay, and if I build Zaps, but the Zoom AI is already so capable. I mean, if you just look at what's available in summarizing notes, meeting notes, transcripts, like there's already so much there. Maybe it's not possible, but like in my gut, I'm like, this functionality exists in other parts of their platform. What am I missing?
It would be possible, but we can't communicate with that part of the world at this moment in time.
Okay.
So we can't take stuff that's happened in Zoom and then ask a companion automatically to do something with it yet. But we'll see. It'd be nice if it created a task, wouldn't it? To I'll use workflows, but
we have
they're so new they don't work either.
We have tasks.
I know, that's what I mean. We don't have an API linked to tasks yet.
Oh, okay.
So,
Gotcha.
Mike, I think mentioned at the last do, might have been after a lot of you had gone to bed, but Mike mentioned at the last task that he said something during our meeting, and his AI then created a task for him automatically to remind him to do that task. So it would be nice if we got to the point where we can programmatically do things and then send a message and get tasks to be automatically updated. Then we'll use them more, won't we? So Zoom, come on.
And that was actually done by AI Companion, Zoom AI Companion. I didn't actually do anything. It just figured out that I should have a task from the meeting that I promised John X, and it wrote that task automatically to my workplace app in the task.
Okay.
Hi, Robert.
I was going to change subjects. I don't know if Frank wants to continue on the same topic.
I was just going to say, if you're going to wear that outfit on the show, you've got to share a recipe before you leave.
It is a kitchen.
It is a kitchen. I wanted to share something Zoomish. I have been working now because I have a project coming up where I have to live stream in horizontal format and in vertical format. And this is always tricky because the layouts are different and they need to be synchronized in a specific way. So I've been using Mimo Live to play with this. There's something seriously wrong with my camera today. I don't know what it is. I've been using Mimo Live to set it up. And I don't know if you can spotlight that feed mic from the other. What I have here is on the right-hand side, I have Mimo Live being streamed to YouTube in a horizontal format. And I'm sending that out as it is to via NDI to a second Mimo Live document, which has the the face tracker set. I don't know why it's going a bit wonky, but is that happening at my end or your end? Well, something's gone wrong. Something's gone wonky since we spotlighted. Maybe we need to take the spotlight off. But the point is, it seems to be one of the ways that we can do this. It's quite stable if you look at the right-hand image. Well, I think we need to switch that spotlight off. It's been working throughout the Zoom Test Kitchen today. It looks stable. In other words, on the right-hand side, you've got the horizontal image, and the left-hand side, the vertical image, which is formatted differently. The only time it went really... David! Someone's spotlighting that workstation.
No, it's not me. It's not
okay,
me.
Sorry. The only time it went wonky was when David when you were sharing your screen through Ecamm. because it doesn't know where the person is then. So it doesn't know who to face track, and it goes all over the place. It can't figure out what to show. So that's sort of the experience that I've had over this Zoom test kitchen, just to share with you in terms of Zoom. And it's something that needs to be worked on, because I've also found on Mimo Live, you can set up using BitFocus Companion keys on a Stream Deck that will change the two views at the same time on the different Mimo Live documents. Okay? So documents in Mimo Live are just two instances running like side by side on the same computer. So I'm only logged into Zoom once, to the Zoom test kitchen once, and I'm just feeding whatever I have over NDI to the other session on the same machine.
Go ahead, Lots.
I have a question. So I don't have a lot of the extra applications and things. If I wanted to have a normal Zoom window, horizontal, and then I also wanted to get the same thing vertically, I would probably just set up a screen capture on my computer. I'm on a Mac, so it's Command-Shift-5, and you can say whatever you want. And so then I would just do the middle part and be recording that on my computer while recording the other to Zoom. I don't know if that would work, but it sounds like it might.
It'll work, Lois, if you're just applying that to yourself. The trouble, the trouble comes when you have other participants in the meeting, and they're framed differently than you are, and you're switching from one person to the other. Someone's sitting on off frame, someone's onto the right of the frame, and it just gets very messy. That's one thing. And the other thing, of course, is when you do a screen share, how do you handle the screen share? And that has to be pre-programmed so that in the vertical part, you can actually see something, which is very difficult because the screen's very small. If you just put a horizontal screen share into a vertical format, then you just get a little bit at the top. Mm-hmm. So it becomes very tricky.
I was thinking of my own use, mm-hmm. and what I would use it for would be to record something for sharing on Zoom, and also record something for those vertical format shorts and things. Yeah,
sure.
But yeah. So anyway, that's really interesting, Robert. That's say again what program is it's just Mimo Live, or is there something else in there?
It's just Mimo Live, but I'm using NDI to move the image in sync with the audio from one instant to the other, so that I have everything in sync.
Robert, just remind me, Mimo Live cannot do vertical and so 9:16 as well as 16:9 at the same time?
When you set up a Mimo Live document, you have to predefine the output format. So the program format. So it'll give out, only has one output format. So what you do is you open a second document and you define in that second document the different format. And then you can play with it.
Right, because I was going to mention that OBS and vMix both have this functionality already built into it. Where you can actually send out a 16:9 and a 9:16. OBS, they do it more on because of the gaming industry for e-gaming. So that's where a lot of them will actually do both. Or again, you could also run a separate, if you wanted to, in this case, a 9:16 encoder, just running the 9:16 made as you would like it.
That's actually been a huge request in the Ecamm family, is to be able to stream to both vertical and horizontal. It doesn't exist yet. But
with OBS, there's actually a very clever plugin that allows you to open another window, output window, with another set of scenes that you can define, but you can control them with one button at the same time. So it's really well done in OBS.
Yeah, based on your resources. all the time. Always keep that in mind.
Yeah. Another option or something which I do is I use StreamYard a lot. So I have two StreamYards open, and one goes on the portrait mode and one goes on the landscape.
Yep, that's definitely one of the ways to do it if you're using StreamYard.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So any other questions from the YouTube audience or such? David, thank you for joining us this week, and we'll see you next week, David. He went by as Rohit and Robert were finishing up there. So yeah, if anybody does have any questions, we're taking those right now, of course, and we've been taking those all meeting, but let us know in YouTube and we will let the panelists know your official questions that you might have. It's cute, Robert. I'm just noticing that my graphic just happened on your workstation unit. So I think why the infinity was happening was because of the fact that it was taking your video and they had the two, and then it started doing the two more, and then kept going and going and going, and so on and so on, and the infamous so on and so forth. Yeah.
The interesting thing, I was just looking at the load now with the two streams going out. They're going out in full HD. The vertical isn't going out in full HD, it's going out in HD. The load on the Mac Mini Pro is 55%.
Doable.
But you gotta keep in mind that
just be careful on how many, if it's quite energetic content, that will start to spike up. But if it's very, like we're doing now, which they would call in the broadcast industry, I'll think about it. I know talking head. There we go. If it's very talking head content, then that's a different story. So that's based on what we're doing right now, which is talking head. But all of a sudden, if there was a performer that might be dancing, again, it will start to compensate because it needs to work hard.
it depends what needs to work harder, because the Mac Mini Pro has a separate chipset for RTMP encoding, so that's outside of the processor load.
Right, but encoding 101 is that every frame changes as it changes. It needs to be redrawn and it has to be rebuilt. So the more processor will get used at that particular point. That's what I was mentioning.
Okay.
But again, right now with me just talking, it's only doing my face. It's not doing the rest of the screen. It's not doing my background. But if that person is panning, tilting, even that will just spike it up a little more. And then of course, if they're dancing, as an example, that will just, you'll be fighting to make sure that the frame rate stays at, in this case, you're probably running 30 frames just to make sure that it would stay at 30 frames all the time.
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Frank. Yes. iframes, P frames, and B frames. Yes. Without getting too geeky, but yes, 100%. But that's already semi-geeky already. But yeah, it's correct. Absolutely correct. So Jason, you were telling us earlier about your infamous Windows woes that you can't push it back any further.
Nope, and seems like on my end though that the video freezing glitching issues are resolved. I mean, I haven't noticed during this meeting that, and I'm using the test machine here, so at least that is, yeah, it's been a salad buffet of driver combinations to figure out the secret mix, because I can't deny 24H2 anymore. I've gone past the point of pausing, and they're forcing it upon me. So yeah, that's just where it's at, and coming soon to all my other machines. So I'm really trying to figure it out here on my test machine, so that I don't have to spend another 5 weeks figuring it out on these other machines coming soon.
Yeah, and I don't dare want to tell you that I know that there's a 25H2 already.
I have yeah, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that, and they're and Microsoft finally realized that there was a problem with 24H2, and they're pushing out releases into the wild, and some of those releases are working, and most of them are causing other problems. So I don't know. How do you release something in production when it's not ready?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Jason. That's exactly it. And again, of course, these updates as well are also affecting the software world on the Windows side as well. So, I would have to double check with vMix if they're happy with 24H2 yet. I know they were definitely telling us if you don't have to go to Windows 11, don't. Was the official answer, because they've just, it's tied tested very well on Windows 10 because it's been on Windows 10 for so many years now. But Windows 11 has still been a little, and again, if you're having driver issues just with Zoom, you can imagine what driver issues potentially there could be with software switchers. I have not heard anything on the OBS side, but I'm not as depth in the actual OBS side on the Windows side. I'm more familiar with the vMix side, and I would have to double check to see what they were actually running at NAB. I have a feeling they were running Windows 11, but I don't think they were going bleeding edge on 24H2. I think if it was anything, it might have been at minimum probably 22H2. I don't even know if that one actually does exist on Win 11 anymore, but it would be probably thinking about it more, probably 23H2.
Yeah, and then of course October, all the support for Windows 10 is officially over, unless you want to pay a penalty fee, basically, But yeah, and they also announced support for Office 2016 and Office 2019 also will be killed that same October date that they kill Windows 10. So yeah, some of you folks that have got the Windows 10 production machines with OBS or some of the things that have been running tried and true, PowerPoint for your presenter slide deck and all that stuff, your world may be changing drastically in October.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, YouTube audience, if you have any questions for us, by all means, let us know. And Jason, go ahead again.
Oh, no, I hit the wrong button.
All righty.
I went to hit the mute button and...
No, it doesn't work like that. Now you owe us a question.
Okay. What is the meaning of life?
Wow.
42. Next question.
Yeah, and I can even give you the proof for why it's 42 as well.
And thanks for all the fish.
If you're a math geek.
Excellent. And yes, by the way, John, I did want to mention this earlier. Canada misses Marks and Spencer too, by the way. I'm just saying. Yes, we used to have that in Canada.
Yeah, it's been interesting from a company perspective because we have a lot of data protection laws. So when you're being attacked as a business, you must confess it to the authorities. Otherwise, you can get sued under data protection laws, let alone the fact that somebody's breaking into your computers and blowing everything up for you. So,
John, how long do you have to disclose that?
I can't remember, but it's not very long.
Probably really 48 hours, John.
It
probably
really is. It's really one of those. Yeah, you've got to almost immediately type scenarios. You can't sit on it.
How nice that would be to have that law here.
Coming soon.
But of course, once you do that, then the authorities get involved. So GCHQ can, hack into the telecoms and give you some advice and help. Of course, we won't say what they're connected to because we obviously don't know. But yeah, they'll get involved then and help out. But yeah, you have to let people know very quickly indeed. Which I'm sure there's been a few false positives in the past because people thought they'd been attacked. Because the first thing they say when attacked is they just assume they've lost data. I mean, going back to the domain name changes, problems with Zoom. The first thing everybody wanted to say was, is our data safe? And the answer to that is yes, because the problem is nobody can get to your data, so your data's safe.
Yeah, unless they really, really, really want to dig at the IP address, and then, and only then, do they have to start hacking at that particular point.
But they don't have to tell you what the problem is, and they aren't telling us what the problem is. So the rumors are that it's a ransomware attack. But whether it's ransomware or a DDoS just stopping access to apps, no one knows.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I'm just thinking if there was any other big, maybe Zoom session, Zoom event releases this week that we maybe could talk about.
I don't know. It depends what I can say that can prompt somebody on YouTube to panic and want to join us. You know, because
we do know that we're being watched on Zoom by Zoom. So I should say,
if you want to get on in Zoom, all right, and this is to everybody, whether you're a member of Zoom or just a user, if you want to get on in Zoom, the secret is find out who the product managers are, because even the product managers don't know who all the project managers are. But if you can find out who the product managers are and get on their right side, then you can find out what's going on in that particular part of Zoom. It's just such an enormous organization now. There's so many little silos. It's quite fun. And then, of course, when you get to Frank's level, there's a whole new range of product managers and people looking after all the important customers with a really large customer base. Yes, if you got one of those, Frank, then you are a little bit further on than the rest of us. Yes.
Yes. The official terminology that Frank told us was TAM.
Yeah, which the translation is the more you spend with Zoom, the higher up the person that looks after you is. And for those of you that are at the bottom, that's what the community forum's about. And that's where we look after those people there.
And the expert who is there?
Oh, I'll have that deleted.
I have to go edit that out of the YouTube.
I have noticed that there are quite a few people who are on the community forum who give you advice and help, and it's very difficult to actually know who they are in real life. And I do the same. Well, I did until you gave it away, but yeah. I've noticed a few Zoom employees hide behind pseudonyms so that you don't get the direct connection between who they are and what they said. And if I was in their position, I think I'd do exactly the same. Because you're giving some advice to somebody and some help to somebody is one thing, but when you're giving advice and help to somebody and then they find out, you know, what position you are in Zoom, they can assume things about what you say, when all you're trying to do is just give them some help to fix their app. Talking about fixes, there have been, how can I put this? There's been a cohort of people who've had problems with Macs crashing and not starting, and there have been Windows machines crashing and not starting. This may be an H2 related bug, or maybe related to other things. It may be related to the bane of my life with Macs, which is, you know, when all these little microphones and things all work with Apple. They all seem to work in different ways. The different versions work in different ways. There's been a lot of problems with a small group of people with these machines crashing over and over again, and lots of in the community forum. But I have noticed recently a lot of them have been feeding back and saying, it's fixed now, it works. So it looks like Zoom has had a lot of bugs. It may be, you know, to do with Microsoft as well, but I know that the Mac headpieces, earpieces, and all the various versions don't even seem to work the same. They fix one set, and then you have people with another set of the products don't work, and then they fix it for them, and then they don't work. Nightmare. You have this mad idea that, you know, Mac would deal with everything, but it doesn't always.
And actually, I was looking for, and I just thought about it because I noticed our chef today, Chef Robert, how was the wireless issue that you were having last week? Has it been rectified? And I also thought of that company I was thinking about last week that I was mentioning to you that I couldn't remember the name, and I'll tell you who that is. But let us know if did you go after the AKG combiner unit?
Yeah,
AKG?
I've bought the combiner unit. It turns out that the combiner unit has two antennas that are even more expensive than the combiner unit, so that turned out to be quite a surprise with all the BNC cables. It's sitting in a rack now, waiting for testing. But what I found is it was an issue of two of the mics were on two channels adjacent to each other. When I split them up, it just disappeared. It's stable. I've had it running all week, so it's good. But thank you for asking, Mike. Appreciate it. But that's one of the, I can't remember whether it was Frank or you, Mike, that suggested that maybe you should just press the auto search button. It'll find a clean frequency. But when you have multiple of those, I just didn't figure out how to do that. So I allocated the frequencies and then just kept a big gap between them. And that turned out to work, to be fine.
Excellent, excellent. And I just wanted to give an FYI. If you do, again, that was purposely, now you are running AKGs, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Right. So you bought the actual combiner. That is an AKG combiner.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So what some people will actually do is if they have a mixed, so some are AKG, some are Shure, some are Sennheiser as example, they'll actually go after a product from a company called RF Venue. Let me say that again, RF Venue. And again, you'll see a lot of these, and these are basically the antenna that Robert was talking about are what we would call the fins, right? And what you would basically do with these fins in Robert's situation, for the most part, would be, and this is very generic, is one side of the stage would be one fin, the other side of the stage would be the other fin, and they're pointing in towards each other, which means that that's telling the receiver that between this fin and this fin is the area that the microphone will be picked up. Now, if the microphone does leave that area, then you're in the danger zone, right? It may or may not work, depending on the parabolic nature of the antenna that you're using.
I actually had the choice of going for the fin solution or for going for the all-round solution. And I chose the all-round because we go into so many different venues that having directional antennas could cause me problems.
Yeah, what the experience that I've had is a lot of the our dealers and their customers have gone after using that one for a while. It was okay, but it became a bit of an eyesore because of the placement of where you have to actually place that. And the fins are more directional, and that's for a reason, because some stages can get really in weird shapes. And the weird shape situation for the more surrounded one that Robert was just mentioning will have its limits, because again, it will want to be the closer the better. Where the fins, you can then spread them out as long as the cables are and then point them in towards each other, and then they should again, wireless is wireless, so they should be able to, as long as you're within that footprint of where the fins are pointing into, the mic should get picked up at that particular point. But yeah,
just for those who don't see that, the fins just look like a comb, so they're directional. While the ones I have are just circular all round antennas.
Right. And again, it's so the similar, and again, I'll get to Scott in 2 seconds here. I just wanted to finish this up. The one that Robert has like this is similar to the same as the unit, as the antennas are in the back, because they're very, shall we call it, non-directional versus directional. There's other terminologies that could be used for that, but that's the situation that you're in. But at least, Robert, at this point, you could try what you've got, and you could always upgrade. And depending on the venue too, you could always have both sets. Not both of them necessarily working at the same time, but you could actually go with that. And should you be in a different scenario, you just have to get again, what we call the fins, because they look like fins on a dolphin or fins on a fish.
My AKG guy said that with the directional antennas, they're really good for big sets, for big stages. Yeah, I don't do big open air events. I'm usually in conference rooms or in hotel conference rooms. So the circular type seem to be the better option, so that we don't end up with too many black spots, having two antennas that are very close to each other, and there's big empty spaces around it. So that's what the recommendation was, and that's what I went with.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and again, test it out, because again, you'll only know once you put it into the real world situation of, is it strong enough? Is it covering enough? And all of a sudden, if that person decides to walk off in a certain area and it just gets out of that range, then you've been going, what? And again, what some of the people also, some of our dealers, customers will do is they'll actually have the fins back with them at the back of the room, where they actually have their audio mixers. So at what we would call the front of house position, and they would actually just point both fins towards the stage so that they can walk anywhere from there. Again, depending on how long the room is, right? Because that also then comes into play. So they don't necessarily worry about how wide the stage is then at that particular point. They worry about covering from this part of the stage to that part of the stage. Even though it's small, they might actually then, if they walk off a stage and all of a sudden think that they're all of a sudden interviewing people at the tables, now they're too far, right? So now the fins at the back would actually then cover them walking around anywhere in front of the front of house. So again, it's stuff that I've seen that they've done. So I'm just offering that to you, Robert.
Appreciate it.
And it's been in small banquet halls all the way up to large conference center locations. And Scott had a question for us. I hadn't noticed that we can now sign in an ID with up to 5 of the same type of devices. Very useful for our environment. What is the current limit for simultaneous meetings per pro and business accounts? John, and I saw you did answer that. Was that you answering, Scott?
Yes. Okay. So let's, do you want me to share the little bit to show you where it is?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Hold on. Let me just clear up my screen, because you don't want to be watching that conversation I'm having. Okay. So if I get rid of that, let's get a bigger screen for this machine. Okay. So there's an ability, he said, chatting while he can get stuff working. Portion of the screen, that's all I want. Okay, I'm not going to share my screen because it's just getting too silly. Oh, I see. I'm on a Mac. I've not used this before.
Oh, what a Mac. There's the question. There's the comment of the day. Oh, what a Mac. There we go.
I'm on a new Mac Mini, which I have had the memory hack put on it, so it's actually got more storage. So when you go into your settings and you go down to your settings, sorry, when you do your little button to get down to your I'm active and what status and check for features and updates, in at the very bottom to sign out, just above that there's a switch account. You can add multiple accounts into that installation, so you can swap between accounts. What you can't do, although I've got away with it a couple of times, maybe you just didn't notice, what you can't do is switch between different accounts in different tenants. In other words, if you've got a license for a whole load of services, and then you've got another completely different license because you're a silly person like me, I've got a business account, I've got a corporate account because I'm part of a corporate, so I've got a corporate account, I've got a business account, I've got a demo account. They're all separate tenants. They're all under completely separate billing accounts, known as tenants by most people, known as domains by other people. I find that you cannot have logins from the different groups in the same piece of software. But if you've got different logins within one tenant account, like I've got a login for this as a Mac Mini, but I've got it also logged in at the moment as my main account, you can switch between those accounts. So one piece of software, Zoom, on one computer can switch between multiple accounts. If you are not keeping track of things like I often do, you can end up having multiple computers logged into that same thing. I think the limit is 3. I'm sure Frank's going to correct me on everything I get wrong here in a second. I think you can have 3 open. If you try and open the account more than 3 times, or in my circumstance with a Business Plus account, if I try and open more than 3 machines or devices, whatever you want to call it, with the same login, it will start kicking the others out. The next part of your question is, does that mean I can use the login to go into multiple meetings? No. My one login can only be in one meeting at one time. But what I can do is if I have 2 devices logged into that same account, I can switch the meeting from here to another machine. So I have this logged in on an account at the moment, and I happen to know that the computer over in that corner is also logged into this account at this moment in time. I could go to that machine and I could bring this meeting across to that machine. So I can transfer it across, but I can't be in a meeting twice. I can't be in the login can be in the meeting twice. But if I had an assistant program, those types of units that are helping out, that are running browser versions of Zoom, you can have them turn up in the meeting twice, as long as the admin security allows people to go into a meeting twice. But you can't go into 2 different meetings. So if you think this is a way around licensing, no, it's not. And now, after all I've said, I will leave it to Frank to correct me on everything I got wrong.
I have no intention of correcting anything, but depending on the license you hold.
Frank, you may want to move your mic down.
Thanks. Yeah, I was having a snack in earlier. I forgot. Depending on the kind of license you have, I think, is it Business Plus or Business? I think you can have 2 concurrent meetings. But I have heard, I've never seen one myself, but I have heard that if you contact Zoom Sales, there are licenses where you can get more than 2 concurrent. I think it's even more than 3. But I would wonder, is your computer robust enough? Is your bandwidth robust enough to support multiple concurrent meetings? I noticed you said something about other devices, so maybe that would off-put some of that concern. But I think your best bet is to talk to Zoom Sales and see. They have, I don't know what they call it internally, but they have listing of different products they sell. And I'm sure they can look it up and tell you how much it costs to have a license with multiple concurrent. And then you'll have to decide how many multiple concurrent meetings you want to have per account.
Yeah, if you have something like Zoom OSC, there are quite a few apps like that. If you have your own browser-based app, I've got third-party browser-based apps that I use. They all have to log into Zoom to connect up, and if they're on the same computer, they can use the same login and they will get in. But they can't go in 2 different places. They've got to go into, as Frank said, they've got to be going into the same meeting. At the pro level, I've got a Business Plus level. I've never tried to be in 2 meetings. It seems to, my experience is, it seems to try and force me to be back in the same meeting. So if I'm in a meeting here, I can't get the machine over there to go and join a different meeting if it's got the same login. I can only switch the meeting I'm in between the 2 machines. But maybe I haven't asked the right people for the right question yet. Thanks, Frank.
I'm always curious why people want to do this. There's things like scheduling privilege, where you can have other people in your organization host, like you can set up the meeting, schedule them for them, but you don't have to attend the meetings. If you're just trying to get around paying for multiple licenses, it's not going to work. Zoom's pretty good about making you pay for every license. So, I don't know what your end goal is, but it is technically possible to buy Zoom licenses that allow for multiple concurrent meetings per email address. Zoom's unique identifier for accounts is email addresses. So if you log into your tenant as person X and you have the right license applied to your account, you can do it. But without knowing why you want to do it, it may or may not be a good idea.
I'm going to try and guess why Scott's asking this, because I know a lot of interpreters ask me the same question. And the whole concept is that if I have a laptop and I'm logged in into Zoom Workplace on that laptop and I'm joining a meeting and I'm an interpreter, I also want to have a second device where I'm communicating, for example, with my pair that I'm interpreting with.
But that's
So
the
can
same
I-
meeting ID. I took from his request that he wanted to be able to start join it or create different meetings with different meeting IDs simultaneously.
That's where I think I read that differently, because what I
Okay.
read is that
Well.
I sign in to different devices, up to 5 different
Sure.
devices.
I
Yep.
understand your use case. If I want to have an iPad as a confidence monitor to see, but I know there's people who want to have concurrent multiple meetings with different meeting IDs, and I'm always curious as to why they want it. Like, what is the goal they're trying to achieve by doing that? And I've heard different scenarios over the years, but it may or may not be the right approach depending on what your end goal is.
Yeah, but just coming back with the interpreters, what the interpreters want to do is they want to be in the main meeting and they want to run a second meeting where they're in that meeting with their partner, their booth partner.
We used to do that for we used to call it a bridge, but we called it a tech bridge. So the main meeting would be happening with all the participants, and then sort of like comms in a TV production. All the technical people might be on a different meeting saying, hey, participant 2's out of focus, or get ready with graphics package number 3. So yeah, I could see being in 2 concurrent meetings for production related details or something.
My solution, Robert, to that is so simple it must be wrong. I have a login, a free account login for all my devices. So all my devices had their own personal free login. So if they're interpreters of somebody else's meeting, they can join with a free login. If you want to have a separate meeting that they can all communicate to each other and they've got a back channel, only one of them needs a paid license to start the meeting. Everybody else can join on a free license. So that's the way I do it. So all my devices have that's how I use the switch between accounts a lot. So this machine has got its own personal free login on the account that it usually uses. And if I want it to be me, as I do at this meeting, on my login, then I just switch it over. But most of the time, all these different machines all have their own personal logins. And they're all on a free account. Because they're not starting the meetings and they're not the host of the meetings, they can be a co-host, you see, because once they're in the meeting, you can make them a co-host for free. So I've even got a little guy down there called iPad, and it is just this the iPad, and the iPad will join meetings, and I use that. And the fact it's actually behind because it's on wireless and it's actually 2 seconds behind the actual meeting is really useful, because then I can tell by the echo coming out of it whether everything I think I'm putting into this conference is actually being seen by the attendees, because it's just basically a little attendee that sits there and listens in.
Yeah, with Zoom, I don't know what language they use internally. Some places would call it an SKU, a SKU. So there's different product offerings, and they'll have some sort of nomenclature, like that's product S27 or something license, and maybe that's the license you need for multiple concurrent meetings of, with a limit of 4 or 5 or 15. I don't know what the upper limit is either.
Scott was just mentioning in YouTube that he says, "Oh, I found only paid accounts can be co-host." And we know that is not true. Anyone can be the host as far as free.
Well,
But
with a free account, they can join a meeting and then the host can pass co-host role over too. But if you're trying to assign co-host when you're setting up the meeting, then the other ID, the other email address, that must be within your same organizational account.
There's a lot of confusion. I don't know this person's level of expertise, but generally speaking, for people who don't have a deep understanding of Zoom, there's a lot of misunderstanding between co-host and alternative host. Co-hosts, you can't assign them until the meeting's underway. Alternative hosts in your organization, you can assign. So if you have scheduling privilege, for example, you can schedule meetings for multiple people and you can make people alternative hosts. They can show up and start the meeting if the host doesn't show up.
And Scott, one other detail that in regards to your question, it used to be that there was a 15-minute limit between a host leaving an event and being able to start another. And that has been modified now that as soon as the host ends one event, they could start, or excuse me, a meeting. I don't want to use the word event because I mean something else. As soon as the host ends a meeting or a webinar, they can then start up another different meeting ID. Now, the reality is, how long does it take for that signal to go across the server farm? You know, give yourself a minute or something, but it's not 15 minutes anymore.
This was the use case a lot of corporates have commented about, that they will be like, you know, they've got meeting after meeting after meeting all the day. And if they're 5 minutes late finishing one meeting, they can't get the next meeting started. And they're the people that probably have the use case that would be acceptable for Zoom. But the rule of thumb I use in the community when I'm answering questions is the person who is running the meeting, the host, or who started the meeting, needs to be a paid account holder. If they're not paid account holder, Zoom is going to treat it like a free meeting and it's going to terminate at 40 minutes. You may get away with it if you get a paid person back in, but the simple rule I keep to is it's got to be a paid person that starts a meeting and is responsible for the meeting, the host. If you hand it over to a free person, don't be surprised if it gets terminated in 40 minutes. Everybody else can be co-hosts for free, and I'm sure there are exceptions to that, and Robert's probably going to catch me out on one, but that's the rule that I use for everybody to try and keep it simple.
No, I'm not going to try and catch you out, John. I was going to say, going back to the alternative host that Frank mentioned, if I'm the license owner and I make Frank an alternative host and I'm holding a meeting and then Frank starts the meeting that he's been made the alternative host for, in other words, a separate meeting from the one that I'm holding, if he gets a warning sign that the host is already running a meeting, if he starts his meeting, he will kill my meeting.
Unless you have a license that allows you for multiple concurrent meetings.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just have a doubt here. So when you get an alternative host, isn't it a given that you can have two concurrent meetings because you're having two licenses? Even the alternate host needs a license, right?
No, the license belongs to the user and the meeting belongs to the user. The user cannot have two meetings. The user cannot start two meetings. The user cannot have two meetings under their name running at the same time.
Okay, so
but if you use this function of I forgot what the name of it is now, but you substitute, you can schedule meetings so you can schedule meetings on behalf of each other. I think it's called scheduling, isn't it? Or
scheduling privilege.
Yeah. Scheduling privileges allows you to start blurring the lines because you can schedule meetings on behalf of each other, but you've both got to be paid account holders. And when you start scheduling on behalf of each other, then you stop those two people are then scheduling on behalf of each other. That doesn't mean they can then start another meeting in their own name as well. They're now tied into that meeting, which they've taken over on behalf of somebody else. So if you're going on holiday and if I'm going on holiday and I give scheduling rights to Frank, Frank can start and run all my meetings as normal. But he's got to have a license to do it. So there's no gain here. It's just the fact that I can pass my meetings over to him automatically without him having to have co-host privileges. I'm just saying he can schedule meetings on my behalf. I can schedule him. He can look after my meetings. I can look after his. It's just a neat way of sharing the meetings between the two accounts.
Right. And going back to what Frank said too, though, this is within the org. Right, Frank?
Yeah, there's been a lot of complaints I've seen over the year or two in the Zoom community. People are upset that you can't have multi-org or multi-tenant. Like I can't, if you're Mike, I can't make you an alternative host to my meeting because you're not part of my organization, and they think that Zoom should be making that a realistic thing. But I've heard no talk so far that Zoom wants or is doing that, and I don't know if it's technically possible, but I know there's a desire for it. People have been pretty critical of Zoom for saying, what if I'm part of some sort of organization, like let's say we're all scientists working on something, but we all work for different universities. How come I can't make someone who's got their own Zoom license from their university a co-host or an alternate host on my meeting? Because they're not going to be part of my university's Zoom account. They're going to be part of their university's Zoom account. But so far, I haven't heard anyone from Zoom address how or when that would happen.
I can't see it ever happening. And there's a very simple answer. Just have an alias. Have an alias on your email account. The reason I can't see it ever happening is from a security point of view, I think it's a red flag. But also fundamentally, the whole of licensing by Zoom is tied to that email address. That's the fundamental connection. So I think from a structural point of view, they're never going to want to do it because
all they want is, imagine you work for your corporation, I work for my corporation. We both have valid Zoom accounts with different email endings, but I make you an alternative host of my meeting, even though you're not part of my org. That's what they want. That's the desire. So we both have valid licenses. We both have Zoom accounts tied to specific email addresses. But because you're outside my organization, I can't make you an alternative host. That's where the upset lies.
Okay. Well, I have 3 tenants, and I have 4 domain names I think I'm using, and I have logins for different domains across different accounts. I've had to specify them all, and there are quite a few of them. Like I said, I've got all the devices. All the devices are on aliases, so they all come back to one email account, but they're all seen as a different email address in Zoom, but through aliases. And they can belong to the different tenants and go back in and out the different tenants, but they just have to have a different email address. So that's the easy workaround.
Imagine if Robert and I were part of the Closed Captioning Society of the Globe or something, and Robert was, a very good presenter or friend of mine, and I said, Robert, I'd like you to be the alternative host for the meeting next Tuesday. Unless I give him an account in my organization, I can't do that, even though he has a valid Zoom license and I know his email address. There's no technical way to do it right now. Yeah. And I can understand why people think that should be possible. And I'm not an engineer. I don't know the reason behind it. But maybe it's some of the reasons you said, but I can understand why people think that should be feasible.
Absolutely. So there you go, Scott. We definitely went into that more depth. And of course, if you have any follow-ups to that, let me know in chat. But Hershey actually has a question regarding 1080p. So this should be good for everybody. What is the state of 1080p today in April? Going into summertime for May, do we have it available with only one account for USA? And how about other regions?
Possibly. The question I throw back to you is, can you get yourself a business license? Because business licenses are available in some parts of the world and in some states in the US. And a business license will give you 1080. But not everywhere can get a business license without buying 10 at a time. But if you can get a business license, that's the simple answer. And it's also make some money for Zoom, so that'll make them happy, wouldn't it? A little bit more.
I was just going to point out, I don't know if there's regional differences about whether or not you can have 1080p, but I will say that the number of participants, even if you have a 1080p enabled account, I do, the amount of people in your meeting changes the resolution of the meeting. So if I think you need 2 or 3 people for 1080 to kick in. I don't think it kicks in if you're just trying to do screen recordings by yourself or something.
Good question.
Minimum of three is required. With 2, the 1080 didn't kick in for me as well. So I need a minimum of 3, and also one of them on full screen. If I'm speaking, I need the other person to keep me on full screen so that when I see the statistics, there is one person who's receiving 1080. So that's why my Zoom is sending 1080. So if all the other 2 are on gallery view, my statistics still says I'm sending 360.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that caution in there because you could buy a 1080 account, and if you're intending, like, sometimes when people have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So some people buy Zoom and then they use it as a screen recording tool. There's better screen recording tools than Zoom, but if you're very comfortable using Zoom, that might be a limitation you hadn't considered, right? That, I'm not going to achieve full 1080 without other participants in the meeting, right?
Yeah, Rohit, another suggestion too is that when we're testing, different resolutions and such, is also instead of you forcing the person that you're with to full screen, you can just force them to pin, because pinning will actually force the resolution that they are sending. Now, again, they have to also be sending 1080p. If it's a 720p webcam and they're only sending 720p, then you're not going to get 1080p out of that. Go ahead, Frank.
Hypothetical question for anyone who wants to answer it. Do you think Zoom will offer 4K at any time in the near future? Because I could see people who would want recordings in 4K.
Hypothetical. Depending
I'm sure if they offered it, they would charge a lot more for it, but I'm just wondering if they'll ever achieve it.
I can see let's put it this way, knowing the licensing, as well as John and I and Ray and everybody else that play with the licenses more and more often lately, I can see that if they do start with 4K, that they would offer to enterprise first. And that would be a perk.
Even enterprise is stratified now. There's enterprise plus. Zoom has really stratified their offerings. So there's business plus, there's enterprise, there's enterprise plus. So maybe it'd be like enterprise super duper plus. I don't know, but I think technically it's possible they could offer 4K. I think not too many people would need it just to have meetings. But if you're doing video production, for example, you may want those recordings to be 4K. If you're in a location that has the right infrastructure to support more bandwidth requirements and stuff, and if your CPUs and your GPUs are strong enough, I'm sure there's people out there who would pay extra for 4K,
Yeah.
And if you've got cameras and 4K, and you've got to have the whole infrastructure, the whole of the pipeline.
But lots of people in our industry do, right? And they would probably pay the extra to have the whole 4K thing.
Yeah, I agree with you, Frank. I think it's more of a production than an enterprise issue, because enterprise, when you think about it, if you're going to start giving out 4K to all of the users, your network requirements.
I don't think you would, though. Like Zoom supports groups, so as an admin, I would identify the users in my organization who require 4K, and they would be the only people who would get those licenses.
Also, just a note, apart from external cameras like an Hotspot or Insta360, I don't think any built-in camera on a laptop is with 4K. So I'm not sure how they will put it on enterprise.
We often make television production with television switchers. Everything all the way to the computer is 4K. And then you don't have to use a laptop. Like, you can be using a television studio with 4K equipment. Everything's 4K until it gets to Zoom, and then it gets knocked down to 1080, which is my point is, like, there would be people who would pay extra to keep it 4K.
That's
Yeah.
right. So I think it's a very niche market, it's like a video engineer or a V1 or a production studio will use it. So, and for them to get the infrastructure done, I just feel the cost would not match the.
I think Zoom already has the infrastructure. They have so many multiple concurrent 1080 streams coming in and out. I don't think 4K would be a big deal for them. It's more as long as you're in your internet at your location, and lots of people have 10 gig up, 10 gig down, or whatever they have. There's lots of people who are professional, serious, heavy money people who could easily make this work if Zoom offered it as an offering.
No, knowing the back end, just building content delivery networks, the infrastructure is pretty much there. They would have to, in my mind, what I would do if I was Zoom is if I did want to contemplate going 4K, would be changing away from H.264 as the video codec and actually going with a better compression to keep the bandwidth similar to an H.264 bandwidth coming out of the servers.
Anyways,
Meaning,
it was just a
but that
little
would-
mental exercise. I don't think that's happening tomorrow or anything.
No, but that would be what I would do from the Zoom's back end, because then it would be a matter of us being the client sending out a different codec to them. So they would just have to build it into Workplace itself to have the capability of not just being.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I think
But
also
it can be
nobody
done.
would be able to join the meeting who didn't have the appropriate hardware and bandwidth as well. Like, you wouldn't want someone joining the meeting with a cell phone and bringing all the resolution down. Like, there'd have to be a way for the server to identify whether or not you're a 4K person as well and block you from joining the meeting if you didn't meet the requirements, right?
Yeah, my thought would be, and I'm just as I'm spitballing this as you're talking, Frank, is that I can envision this actually potentially going into Zoom rooms first, because Vandy's already influence already of adding a lot of the production based stuff into Zoom rooms.
Well, that makes complete sense. I mean, now you're talking, usually, not always, but usually you're talking a corporate environment when you're in a Zoom room, and those can be $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 rooms easily, right? Like, so those are the kind of people who that this would be more appropriate for, right?
Yeah,
I know
and the
that
chances of-
Cisco and Polycam used to have very high. I don't know if you've ever seen, like, some of the corporate video conferencing rooms I've seen. They have 40-inch TVs across from the table from you, where the TV is mounted in portrait. So the person across from you is the same size as you, and it feels like you're talking to a real person right there across the table from you.
Yep. Oh yeah. There was a lot of conversations that I was involved with this week. And again, it was based on digital signage, as a matter of fact, which is sort of, and a lot of it was UCC, which is Unified Communications, which Zoom's in that category. And they were talking about, and this was based on companies that are installer companies that would do these type of large $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 easily Zoom rooms, or shall we call them conference rooms. And there was a lot of this discussion going on where there was even discussions of moving away from it being physical televisions to actually true LED walls, where the actual televisions themselves. So when the person's actually in front presenting, and if they're also on a Zoom call, it would be similar to a baby Zoomtopia type scenario where you'd have Eric, the CEO, in front, and you'd actually have a video wall in the back instead of it just being TVs. So yes, there's a lot of conversations on that, and of course, it's related to, always comes down to cost. And Scott has a question for Frank, saying, is there any rule against loaning, and he's using quotation marks for that one, an ID from our account to an external person as a way of being able to pre-assign them as co or alternate host? I'll send that over to the crew.
The official Zoom answer would be, it should be the same person on the same computer, full stop. We're all bending the line, blurring the line. That is the official licensing. It's one machine, one user, same machine. That's it. So the fact I'm using my license on 2 machines, I am blurring the lines.
You're absolutely correct. Officially, Zoom's terms of service about sharing accounts is it's not allowed. Can you get away with it? Maybe. I do see Zoom giving bans to people quite often. If you ever go on the community forum, I think it's the 1301 error. It means your machine's been banned, and they don't. It's very hard to get unbanned. I asked someone from Zoom if it's the MAC address of the computer. They won't tell. They said it's not, but they won't tell us how they figure out who you are. It's not. I don't think it's just your IP address, because I've seen people take their laptop to other places and it's still banned. I don't know how they do the banning, but they're very good at it, and I wouldn't risk my account because it's tied to a unique email address. I wouldn't want to get banned. So you can buy a Zoom account for a month. So you can add someone to your organization for about probably $20. So you could buy a 1-month license, register them in your organization, your Zoom organization, and just give them a license. So that it costs you $20 for one meeting. That's better than getting your account banned, in my opinion.
Having said that, so when we do Zoom events, right? So regular Zoom events, we have email IDs like tech1@.com, tech2, tech3, tech4, tech5. So every month when I have different set of events, I have different tech people coming in. So I've not had any, like you said, officially something. Unofficially, I've not had any issues as of now. What I understood was last year when I used it, so I worked with a Canadian agency extensively. So last year when I tried logging into those email IDs here, Zoom used to ask only me an OTP. For people who logged in from US or Canada, OTP was not there. Surprisingly, this time I didn't get an OTP, even though I logged in from India. But yeah, like I said, officially you're not supposed to use, but then when it comes to the events and we have different tech people for different events, we rotate the email IDs. Yeah.
Rohit, the rules still apply.
I know.
The rules, you're breaking the rules still apply. I'm being a little bit hard here, but we need to make this really clear to everybody, because I don't want people coming back saying, oh, you said it so-and-so. The rules clearly apply. But Zoom is a friendly company. They are quite open. I've had people complain that they're an enormous organization, a college, and they need more than 9,000 accounts for their registered people. And the answer is that's the default number. If you've got a good use case, Zoom will look at changing the licensing. It's like the multiple uses of an account at the same time. Zoom is a flexible organization. If it really becomes an issue, you can speak to sales. And if you've got a real case, and you're not trying to just get around the system, they will make allowances. But the cast iron rule is one person, one machine, one license. And everything else after that is up to you. If you think you've got a reasonable case, you can speak to the salespeople if changes need to be made. But if you're a single user on a pro account, don't contact sales, because they're only going to have conversations with very large paying customers.
So is there an alternative for the use case which I had then? So let's say, let's say I have...
Well, it doesn't matter, because when it comes to an event, the only person that has to pay for the event is the event tickets. So everybody who turns up for the event, who does all the other roles, doesn't matter. They are just a ticket in the event. They're a user. They get counted, whether they are a translator, whether they are a co-host, whether they're a presenter, whether they're an attendee. They still need to use up one license each. So if you're pay-per view, they all cost you your $1 or $2, whatever it is for your per user for the license you're doing. If you're on an unlimited plan, then you can fill up that number with those people up to that point, including the person that started it. So in all of this, you only need one person who's got a paid account, and they're the person that set up the event, the meeting, the webinar, etc., etc. They're the person that needs to be paid for. Everybody else can be free or registered or or not even at all. It's up to you what your registration rules you apply.
No, okay, yeah. So again on that, so probably I'm not telling it rightly. So when it's a one-off webinar, yes. So let's say I have a 1 hour slot when I have 6 parallel webinars or 6 parallel meetings going on. So at that time, having one person switching on everything is a task. So that's when we as tech support come in, and
Right.
we are
So you're talking about panel event. You're talking about six separate meetings.
Correct. 6 separate meetings.
Okay. They all need a licensed person running each one of the 6.
Yeah, we have license. So we have
Yeah.
it like Tech 1, Tech 2, Tech 3, Tech 4, Tech example. The
Yeah.
only thing I'm trying to say is the tech support person might not be the same next month.
Yeah, that's true. But you are still technically breaking the licensing laws.
Got it. Understood. Yeah.
You should give them a separate email and transfer the license from one person to another. And again, if you transfer a license between multiple people, more than I think it is 3 times in a month, Zoom will think that you're just trying to get around the licensing laws again and will shut you down. But if you've got an event this month and the person is Fred, you can give Fred the license. If it's next month, Joe is looking after it, you can give the license to Joe, and then you are completely within the rules of Zoom.
Got it.
So they're quite happy for you to transfer licenses because people take over. That's fine. But if you do it every Monday, Joe is doing it, and then Fred is doing it on Tuesday, and somebody else is doing it on Wednesday, no, they'll stop you and they'll shut you down for that, because that is bending the rules too much, I think is probably the polite way of saying it. And yes, we get a lot of people on the community forum who come back and say they've done this or they've done that. And there's people that come on and they say, I've got this app, which, if you've got an app that's joining a meeting, it's still got to be seen as a licensed user like anybody else. You can't, there are people and I'm saying this on purpose because I want you to stop doing this. It's no good going onto the developers forum, creating an app that can start meetings, then thinking the app gets meetings done for free. It doesn't. It's got to be licensed like everybody else. So stop spending all your time writing these apps and then complaining when they don't work, because they don't work on principle. Oh, that's 2 rants in one evening. I'm going to need a good sleep tonight.
You are. That's true. Yeah. So Rohit, yeah. So definitely those are definitely suggestions from Frank and from John, what to do. And again, of course, if you are in the same situation like John is, and you can allocate an account per physical hardware, you might be better off to do that as compared to being, assigning it to X person, and then that person being a different piece of hardware all the time, because then you're a lot more in control of the licensing and you're not upsetting Zoom. All right, Hershey, thanks for your comments. Appreciate it. I'm glad we were able to figure that out for you. Take care, Jason. Glad to see you, and hopefully your Windows projects are better this week. I know I got affected a little bit about, Patch Tuesday this week. It caught me off guard because I wasn't ready for it. Neither was our team, but that's no here nor there. That's a different story. That's why I brought up 25H2, because that magically appeared within the last week or two as well. And they classified it as a preview. If you're familiar with the different flavors of Windows lately of beta, preview, versions, and all that wonderful thing from the Microsoft verse. Okay. Any other further questions from the YouTube audience? Definitely let us know in chat, and we will continue on with that. As you saw, the last half hour, we just dealt with 2 questions, and that was a quick half hour on just talking about 1080p and talking about stuff. Oh, Rohit, as a text. Okay. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Mohit just sent us a message to everyone here in chat. Mohit, did you want to explain your what you're saying?
Yeah. So what I tried to say is that, so as a tech person, I follow the instructions which is given to me from a US agency or an American agency. Having said that, so I don't have much control of how, because it's not my account, it's an enterprise account. So having said that, I will definitely go back to them and tell them about this conversation we had and see how we can change for the better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that Zoom are clever enough to catch everybody all the time and they're waiting people. They're not. But I think in your position, it'd be good for you to just mention this so that if there is any problem or any query, you've done the right thing, because it's not your account. So you shouldn't be responsible for having to make that decision.
Right. And there is also the potential too that you using it might cause problems for their account.
Yeah.
In one way or another as well. So and this also, as the blame game will start to happen, they will of course say, oh, it was Rohit's fault because he was using it and he did something. But yet they're actually,
if they're a corporate, it shouldn't be a problem for them to allocate user accounts for doing these things. It's somebody's got to do something, but it's not difficult to do.
Yeah. And what you might want to have them do too, John, is maybe even have Rohit actually set up a separate free account so it can be added to their org. Would that work? Frank, John, would that be useful? Not useful? Robert?
Well, I think he wants paid accounts because they're opening meetings, doesn't he? So I think he wants license. He needs license accounts because he's adding them to meetings.
Oh, okay. Rohit, you're managing meeting and scheduling meetings. You're not just participating.
Yeah, so I'm opening meetings. We have a couple of 4 to 5 parallel meetings or webinars happening at the same time. So that's when I come in as a tech support to assist in opening and managing and doing a tech check with the speakers. So those kind of stuff. But I hear you guys. I understand what you're saying. So I'll definitely go back to them, and yeah, because it's technically I will need to tell them because it's not. So they create the entire accounts. But yeah,
if they decide they want to carry on doing it that way, then that's up to them. And let's be honest, there are lots of people doing that all the time. And Zoom probably doesn't really mind as long as you are keeping to the spirit of the law and using the licenses in the right way. But if you start trying to cheat the system, that's when they come to the absolutes, and they'll go back to the absolute rule and slap you down.
Go ahead, Frank.
I just not following this video and they come back and slap me down.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
Oh, I was just going to say, I agree with John. Other people are doing it. I think Zoom's pretty smart at analyzing the data, the network traffic and things. If you're buying 3 licenses so you can share them amongst 15 people just because you don't want to pay for a license for every person, that's a whole different situation. But I know one of the things Zoom brought on about 2 years ago was the one-time codes. If Zoom thinks you're logging in from a weird machine or a weird location and you try to start a meeting, it'll send you a code to your specific email address that's associated with that license. So if you lent your credentials to somebody else, but you didn't give them access to your email, they wouldn't be able to start the meeting because they can't respond to the one-time access code demand from Zoom. So that's another security measure Zoom's put in to stop people from sharing accounts instead of paying for accounts.
And I get that now and again on mine, Frank.
Yeah.
My main account is usually only shared between 2 computers, but a couple of times when I've been testing my breakout software, I gave it to another computer instead and made that in charge of the meeting.
Sure.
And I got the challenge, and they challenged me that, why are you on this other computer? And I gave the challenge back, and I was fine.
So I've seen people basically not be able to have their meeting because Zoom says, okay, we notice you're on a different MAC address or you're on a different IP address. You're not usually at these things. We're sending a one-time code, like a request for a code to you, and we need you to respond. And then the person can't respond because they don't have access to the email account. Even though someone shared the credentials for Zoom, they didn't share the email credentials because nobody wants someone else in their own email. So I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. I think Zoom knows it happens to some extent, and if you're obeying the spirit of the rules, that's one thing. But if you're just trying to save money because you don't want to pay for a license for every person, that's a whole different thing, right?
Yeah, I think it's more the spirit of the game, and it's more for the ease of use, because what I understand is when you have 6 rooms, the agency just buys 6 licenses well in advance. At that time, they don't know who the tech person is.
But
So
then
they,
like you could get a Zoom room license, and the room is licensed, so it doesn't matter who the technician is. So instead of using Zoom meetings, get a Zoom room license, and then the room's licensed. Then you can have 200 technicians.
but yeah, it's the technicians can't do it from a laptop from home, right? If you have a Zoom room license, can we?
If you have a valid Zoom account, you could log in. There's different ways to do that.
I'll check on
As a Zoom admin, I can log into any meeting that's happening in my organization and do tech support that way. But if you don't want to give those kind of credentials to people, there's other things that can be done.
But a lot of this conversation, Rohit, really is not to you. The conversation is for those people listening in. Don't think we're giving you an excuse for how you can get around the system. That's why we're being a little bit firm, because you can't get around the system. And if you get around the system, all you're going to do is end up getting kicked out, complain to the community forum, and then I'm going to have to reply to you, quoting my YouTube message saying you shouldn't have cheated the system. But what you're doing is what a lot of people are doing. And if it's a big corporate, it's got lots of accounts, it's obviously not trying to abuse the system, then I don't think you've got too much to worry about. But yeah, the rules are there to be followed and to be reminded of now and again.
100% noted.
Yeah. And Rohit too. Yes, you questioned about Zoom rooms. You could turn a PC of such, as long as it meets the specifications for Zoom rooms. That device, now listen to me here because that's important. That device will then turn into a Zoom rooms. It no longer is a normal PC anymore, right? It's not like the Zoom Workplace client anymore. Zoom Rooms, when the machine turns on, it's going to boot into Zoom Rooms.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, there's lots of corporate rooms that have Logitech Rally Bar or Yealink or Neat Bar or whatever. Those things are the PC in essence because, you know, it's the Android operating system or whatever. But yeah, you're right. If you want to dedicate a NUC or something to be the power behind the Zoom room, yeah, that's true. You made it a dedicated device or appliance, as you said.
Yeah, so that would be your other variation of, you know, if you wanted to do Zoom Workplace with a specific email address or Zoom Room license, again, both of them have to be licensed, or a Zoom Room license, which is more expensive. But again, that device then does not become a regular PC anymore because it's made to be in a Zoom room waiting to log into a Zoom meeting.
Zoom rooms are weird, though, in the sense that you can invite a Zoom room to a meeting. So
Yep.
You could have a Zoom room, let's say it holds 40 or 50 people, and I could be the person having a Zoom meeting out of my living room or my office somewhere, and you can invite the whole Zoom room to my meeting, and then depending on the capabilities of the equipment in that room, the room will figure out who's talking and do ISOs of those people, camera ISOs, and so yeah, you can have 50 people come to a meeting through one Zoom room license. So you're getting value for money that way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is going to that next level too. Of course, this is where Andy has added the additional functionality to Zoom Rooms. I know the old name, which I believe is Zoom Rooms Pro AV. Not remembering the new marketing word, but that was the old marketing term, which is basically they've added into Zoom Rooms the actual more Pro AV
Production studio.
No,
Oh,
it
okay.
is more. It is more related to doing a lot of Zoom ISO type stuff.
It just makes sense, though. I mean, there are ways to have a personal Zoom room, but typically, if you have a Zoom room, you're probably a business or a corporation with a lot more money than most individual users. Who's going to have the budget to buy the more expensive product offerings from Zoom? It's going to be corporations, right? So why would you build all of these additional features into the Zoom meeting client if someone's only paying $14 a month and they're not going to ever pay, they would not consider paying $100 a month or $60 a month, right? So you want to develop software and hardware solutions for those who are more likely to buy them, right?
Yeah, exactly. But again, Rohit, I think, was just looking for different options if they did come back to them. In theory, they could actually send you a Zoom Rooms appliance that you could actually use. That would have an account based on it, and they would have to assign a license to that. Now, I don't know if a Zoom Rooms actually schedule events. I don't know that answer. I don't have any.
Yeah, it's complicated because now, generally speaking, the way Zoom rooms work is in your organization's, let's say Office 365 or Google or whatever, they have to have their own email address and their own calendar privileges on the server so that they can accept requests or book requests. There's sort of a calendar thing associated with Zoom rooms if you want to do scheduling and stuff, right? Because imagine you have a location that holds 50 people and your whole organization wants to use it. Now you've got to have some way to say, okay, group A gets it from 8 to 10 o'clock, group 2 gets it from 11:30 to 1. So there's other things you have to set up on the back end.
Cool. And actually, Hershey actually has a question for you, Rohit. He says, how much does business cost in India for business license?
Oh, that's interesting. So the business license is just 10 Zoom Pro license, right? That was the cost I always thought it was.
Yeah, that is regional. In some parts of North America and I think Europe, you can have a business license of one license, like one person, but that may be going away. We've had conversations about that in the past, but traditionally in the past it had been for a business license you had to get 10 licenses, like 10 user licenses rolled into the business license.
Yeah, Rohit, if it's possible for you to check, that would be awesome to update, because I know we've checked in Canada and I believe it's still there. I'll do that check. John, as far as you know, that in the UK, is that still happening in the UK? Yep, I'm getting thumbs up from John. It's still that way in the UK still. And in Poland, it's still that way as well. Robert's letting me know. Thumbs up that officially it is still available as one. You can go all the way down to one. So Poland, yes. UK, yes. And I'm just going to double check Canada here.
So in India, it says business license, but 10 users minimum. That's the caveat.
For the business. Yeah.
For business,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So
And
and I can confirm for Canada, we can go down all the way down to one.
Got it.
So that would be your answer to that, Hershey's. Is that depending on your geographical location, if you are in India along with Rohit, then that would be the official answers. If you needed business account, you'd automatically have to buy 10 licenses at the business price. But you would also have the business features as well.
I would say always contact Zoom sales. There's things that they don't list on their website that we may not be aware of.
100%. And when I was speaking to our sales lady, she told me to let the Zoom Test Kitchen audience know you never know what they can do for you. So if you're okay with what they show you on the website, by all means. But if you would like something a little different, contact them, because I'm sure they can accommodate you accordingly.
I've heard that too. Realistically, if you're if you want 1,000 licenses, you're probably going to get more flexibility than if you're asking for 3, just because the scale of profit or whatever for Zoom. But I do know that there are things that they don't put on the website. There are other license SKUs and things, products that we may not be aware of.
Like for a long time, Zoom events up till webinars and sessions, the pricing was there on the Indian website. Zoom events pricing was not there, but off late they've started putting the direct subscription pricing for Zoom events as well. Initially, it wasn't there.
I'm sure there's lots of reasons for that. They have to comply with local legislation. They have to build data centers. There's a myriad of reasons. Or maybe they've done forecasting and they don't think they'll be profitable offering, or maybe they're trying different products in different regions before they offer them globally. Who knows? Like, it's complicated, right?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question, Rohit. That just came to mind when Frank was mentioning that. Rohit, right now, when you're connecting to us, what data center does it say in your workplace app that you're connected to?
1 second.
Sure. Again, we're in the Zoom test kitchen, so we're testing. So this will let everybody know where Rohit is actually, we actually, like, the actual URL for the meeting is based in the US because David is based in the US. So we all connect initially to a US server, but again, that is just to initiate. And then in the background, the magic in the background is that Zoom goes, oh, Robert, you're in Poland. I'm going to make you go to the closest data center. Mike, you're in Canada. I'm going to make you go to the Canadian data center. Same with Frank, because he's in Canada. John, I'm having him go to probably somewhere in London, if not Manchester, in UK, because John's based there. And Tony, when he was joining us today, I'm forgetting where Tony lives, but again, Tony would probably go closer to his data center in the US. And of course, David was in Florida, so he'd be close to a Floridian data center. So, Rohit, what is it saying? It should be in your stats part.
Yeah, I'm connected via data center in the United States, IAD.
Interesting. So you're backhauling all the way from India all the way back to the US.
So am I.
Interesting. You got me thinking now if they're doing that to everybody today. All right, I'm going to check.
It could be various reasons as well, I feel, because probably it's a downtime. It's actually 3:45 a.m. in the night here, and that's exactly why I'm off video. I'm in the bed, so probably it's a downtime for the closest data center where they're doing some refresh, because they do that during the night, and I think I'm connected to the US data center for that. I've actually not actively checked it when I do events, but yeah, next time I will do that.
Yeah, so the very interesting thing for me too is abnormally, I'm going to the US today too. Usually I do check, and I haven't checked today, but usually I do check, and I'm usually going to a Canadian data center. Interesting.
My app here tells me that I'm logged in 4 different devices with this account, you see? So Zoom is keeping an eye on me, making sure I'm doing the right things.
Yes, that is also a good point, John, that yes, you can see that in your workplace app in the profile section. Yeah. Where you're logged in. Boom, 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 boom. Now, again, you could be logged in to multiple places, but you can only execute from one place into a meeting.
And you don't have to be physically logged in on that device. It might just be that the cookie is remembering that you were logged in before, and therefore it still tracks you.
Correct. And that's correct. And again,
until
of course,
you physically log out, you are seen as being logged into that device.
Right. Right. And again, that's John, because again, that's the developer and John coming out there. He's right, because I do have a couple that are showing up in my where you're logged in. It's actually telling me it's Chrome. So obviously this is when I went into the back end of logging in, because I was doing some background administrative stuff too as well. And
I'm also connected to the US data centers.
And yes, Buddy, we're still live. Welcome back, Buddy. He's on YouTube. Yes, we are still live, Buddy. You guys are still live? Yes, we are. Come back, Buddy.
I don't think I'm alive anymore. I'm about to fall off, drop off.
Oh, yes, and I'll show my age because you're forcing it out of me, Robert. Are you live or Memorex? Tell me. I'm showing my age now. And that was a tape reference for all you millennials out there. Okay. I had to do it. Yeah. Oh,
In terms of this login, I just had one find, which I'm probably sure you guys know this before. So there are two ways of getting into a meeting, right? One is I copy the event link, go paste it on a browser, hit enter, and then it asks me to launch my Zoom app, and I go in. The other way is I go into a Zoom web app, go into my calendar, click it, and then I launch and I go into the meeting. So what happened ironically was, for example, my Zoom web app was logged into one, let's say Tech One example, or let's say Rohit one, but my Zoom application on my desktop was logged into Rohit 2. So when I copied a link and pasted on the web app, on the website or the browser, and I hit enter, it automatically logged in from the Zoom, which I'm logged in on my desktop app, that is Rohit 2.
Okay, do you want the software explanation for that?
If there's time, I'm up
No,
for it. Yeah.
it's quite easy. It's not very long. There are two types of connection you can make to a meeting. There is a connection to the meeting, which is the one that we all share, which is the link to the meeting. And you may be required to log in. You may be required to register. It depends on what rules the person who set up the meeting set. But something will need to be done to authorize you, because in the world of Zoom, you have to go somewhere. So if there's no authorization, you have to be in a, you have to have a waiting room. The second way of joining a meeting is when you have registered, you get a link. That is an individual link tied to the account that you use to connect to that meeting. So that would be your meeting link tied to your email address that you use to register with, or the email address of the account that you are in Zoom when you registered to that meeting. And that's an individual link. So I tried to join a meeting yesterday, my speakers club, Toastmasters group. I tried to join that meeting and I wanted to use my Mac, but my Mac was in my corporate account, and I registered under my personal account when I joined that Toastmasters group, when I registered for it. So when I tried to join from a completely different account to that meeting, it came back and asked me for the password because it didn't recognize me as a valid user. So I logged in into the account that I had registered to the meeting for, and I could use that link and I could get into the meeting. But that was because that link was the registered link, and that was tied to the account that I registered it with. Did I say enough to answer and not get too complicated?
Yeah, when you say you logged in,
yes,
to the registered email, was it your Zoom web browser login, or was it your Zoom desktop app which you logged in?
Doesn't matter. Zoom doesn't see any difference as far as login. So it's the email address that I registered when I registered to this, because it's a reoccurring meeting. When I registered to this reoccurring meeting, I was sent a link to get into the meeting. That is a personal link for me tied to the email address that I registered with. So when I tried to use that link in a different email account, it wouldn't be valid. This is the other way you see this is when people run events, and Robert's probably come across this. People run events and they send out the links to the speakers, and then one speaker goes and shares their link with another speaker, and suddenly 3 people turn up exactly the same name because they've all used the same link tied to that speaker, and therefore they all turn up as that speaker because Zoom thinks that they're all that registered speaker, and you get 3 speakers all turn up the same emails. I've even had one event where the host invited everybody with their own personal link. So we had 15 people all turning up with the same name. And I was sure that Zoom was going to start kicking people out because they were all turning up with the same name. It just got really silly. There there was about 50 people in the meeting and 15 of them were trying to have the same name. It got very silly. So
Actually-
you have to be careful about the two levels of registration for a meeting.
But in that, so in this, I think you had many Roberts coming in is because I don't think there was email authorization, so they could all come in. If there was email authorization, I feel the Zoom desktop app needs to be logged in than the Zoom browser, because the Zoom desktop app, if it's a different email, like you said, it still asks for a passcode.
Yes.
Yeah. And having said that,
and that's how you can have the situation which I got at the moment where my Mac Mini is apparently logged in. Well, it must be because I'm in a meeting with you now. But my Chrome browser is also in twice. So I've got two Chrome browsers in, and I've got my other Mac, my Studio Mac, because that was when the meeting the meeting I talked about last night. So that's why it's logged in. So those four are logged in, and I've got a little. I can see it across the way. My Windows machine has got a big box from Zoom saying you've been logged out because it was the last one on the list, and so it got kicked because I've already got 4 people logged in, and the 5th one gets bye-bye.
Also, if you are familiar with vMix call, I will not have 4. So I've also had speakers sending the links to their EA or to other speakers. So in a vMix call, it does not even ask for any yes, no. So I join first, someone else joins, I get kicked out automatically.
Yeah.
And that is annoying with vMix call, yeah. So.
Yeah, because almost all of these systems use your email address as the fundamental way of identifying you. Shall I go and get my cayenne pepper now so Robert can give me the recipe?
Yeah, Frank is back because he came back for the recipe, I'm assuming. So,
all right, Robert, you got us in suspense. Go for it. Sprinkle what it is.
Okay, a quick one, very quick one. I'm going to suggest something good for breakfast tomorrow. It's called Queen's Souffle omelette. So take 3 eggs, break them, separate the yolks from the egg white, beat the egg white, and add a tablespoon of sugar for each egg that you've put in there until you get this very, very hard, thick mixture. Then mix in the egg yolk very slowly. Add a couple of drops of something like orange liqueur or something that will give it an aroma and a good taste to it. And put it onto a frying pan with butter, of course. And
if you said the liqueur at the beginning of
medium.
this recipe, I'd have taken much closer attention to this. You know that, don't you?
That was just for you, John. Onto a hot frying pan, medium heat, and let it cook. It'll start rising. You can cover it if necessary. And then once you've covered it, the trick now is to turn it over. How do you turn it over without breaking it? So turn the whole thing over. Take the frying pan off, put it down, and then you've got to get another plate, turn it back over, and then you can put it back in the frying pan. And once it's all nice and brown, serve it with some maple syrup or something sweet, and you've got a lovely breakfast. Okay, guys.
Fantastic. Thank you, Robert. I'm going to try that, although I haven't got any maple syrup, but maybe I'll run across the road and get some.
It should come out about this thick.
Okay.
If you do it right.
Oh, and I asked
Serious whipping it
ChatGPT, but I asked Zoom AI if it actually could write down the recipe that Robert just did. And it says, quote unquote, I cannot generate a recipe for Robert's message as it appears to be unclear or possibly corrupted text that doesn't contain any recognizable recipe information.
I'm not sure Companion was started early enough because I got a message saying it's just started. So I'm not sure it was started at the beginning of the meeting. That might be why you can't get it wrong.
That's what it
Robert's
was.
Recipe out.
Okay. Or maybe it's looking for a specific format, layout. In other words, ingredients, what you do with them, how long you cook them for, and then how to eat it. But anyway, guys, I'm off. Enjoy yourselves. See you next week. Thank you very much for allowing me to spend the time with you and for testing my vertical, horizontal layouts. I now know what works, what doesn't work, and definitely in the vertical layout, I need to bring the format down a bit because it's just too big. But it fills in nicely. I'm really pleased with it.
Absolutely, Robert. No problem. And of course, Robert, keep listening because in a few minutes you'll have that song. So I know you like listening to the closing song. So I'll have that closing
We're
song.
near the end, so I'll wait around for a while. Thanks.
Yeah, and I've just frozen the YouTube channel so that I can so I've got your recipe ready.
And we'll get it out. And John, are you going to get it out of the CC, the closed captioning?
I don't need to. I managed to freeze the video after he said it, so that I can just play it. I can just replay it from that point. There's one advantage in it being a few seconds later than everything else, isn't it?
Yeah. So does that mean I should actually have David add that to the description? So if you can click on it, it's in the description, just like a regular YouTube influencer. If you want the recipe. That's too funny.
Well, what you do is you replay the YouTube video into another meeting with Zoom, and then you get an AI companion will then read it all for you, won't it?
Yeah, that's true.
I've done that with quite a few meetings actually. I've replayed them. Now we've got companion and all the other wonderful things working. I've actually replayed some of my old meetings back into the system, so it all gets processed.
It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. And Muddy says, quote unquote, yum to Robert. There you go. Muddy couldn't type anymore because he's driving. So thanks, Muddy, for joining us, even though you're driving. That's awesome. But yes, we're still here, Muddy. But we'll be wrapping up shortly. So I'll just do one more time and last call to our friends on YouTube for questions that you might have for John, myself, and Frank is still here. Let us know in chat because this is the official last call of any questions before we wrap up for this week.
So I have to ask the question, what style of music are we having for closing, Mike?
Well, what has been popular has been Deep House #2 version of the clip, as a matter of fact. And even John, you're asking, that's not very nice. You're asking in Zoom and in YouTube. So I answered your question. I'm going to answer it again for YouTube. No, I'm kidding. Everybody in YouTube, you'll see what I'm talking about because you're delayed. So you'll know what I'm talking about. But yes, I will contemplate. I did actually grab all the different versions. So I know David seems to like the country version is what we officially listened to at the beginning. So that's the one that he's got. But the Deep House one has been popular. I will see.
I'm still waiting for one that can tell the difference between live and live.
I have a comment. I've listened to that a couple of times, and I have a funny feeling that it thinks that we all live in the Zoom test kitchen.
We all live in it. Well, looking at you, Robert, I'm starting to think we do.
You're only an hour off.
Funny.
Bring some bags of fertilizer with you when you attack me, please, because I'm short of a couple. I'll be fine.
Very, very cute.
I'm waiting for the nights to get a little bit brighter, and then I'm going to do Zoom test kitchen garden.
Oh,
nice.
The Zoom test garden. Is that where we're going with this?
Yeah.
So we can do a barbecue at my end.
And we'll at that particular point we'll be really in the weeds then, right? Is that where I'm supposed to make that point?
Well, we won't need a closing music because I've got a Robin that sings to me every morning now. I mean, I think he's singing to me, but what he's doing is standing there saying, "Oi, you, fill up the seed tray. I want to have some food." That's what he's actually saying, but I think he's singing.
All right. So, Robert, here's your choices that I'm going to give you today. Dance, we go back to our Deep House, or we go pop?
Definitely not pop. Let's go to Deep House.
We want to go back to the Deep House. All right. I do have a metal version, but
I'll get on with that.
That would be more encouraging at the beginning. That would get us started. It's more of a beginning one than it's an end one.
Get it done soon. I'll be on the egg whites before you finish.
The egg whites are starting to happen. Yeah. Robert's cooking in the background. Everybody knew that? I didn't. I didn't hear any sizzling. I didn't. I swear. And we've actually gained people within the last few minutes. Can you imagine? Yes, welcome back, everybody on YouTube. That's great that you came back. You came back to listen to the theme song. Again, last call for any questions for this wacky crew before Robert has to go to sleep and contemplate his omelets in the morning. All right.
What if I can get a camera down to the kitchen? That's a good idea.
Gotta get Robert a camera for his kitchen. That's a good suggestion.
I do have a very special camera that follows me around the kitchen.
Okay. Is it Ozbot related?
No, it's much older. It's related to Facebook.
Related to Facebook, and it's Zoom compatible still? Probably not.
Yeah, because it's an Android machine.
Oh, there you go.
Come on, Mike, you got it set up now?
I do have it all set up. All right.
Make sure you have original sound set on. We don't want to ruin it.
Absolutely. And stereo sound. Sorry, everybody.
Welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen, where the magic happens live. Every Friday we're on air, testing tech to thrive. From screen share to breakout rooms, we push Zoom to its max. So sit back, relax, and let's see what's in our tech hacks. Zooming in, we're testing it all. Live on YouTube each week. From audio to video, no feature we won't tweak. We're the Zoom Test Kitchen crew, here to innovate. Join the fun, learn the tech, don't be late. We'll dive into the settings, explore every single tab. Make sure your mic is clear, your camera not a drag. We'll show you how to host like a pro, manage like a king. With Zoom Test Kitchen, you'll be zooming with the zing. Zooming in, we're testing it all. Live on YouTube each week. From audio to video, no feature we won't tweak. We're the Zoom Test Kitchen crew, here to innovate. Join the fun, learn the tech, don't be late. Whether you're new to Zoom or an expert in disguise, we've got tips and tricks, we'll open up your eyes. From polls to quizzes, we test functionalities. Join us live, see what Zoom does with ease. So if your meetings lag, or you can't share your screen, or if your audio echoes like you're stuck in between, we've got solutions, we'll show you how it's done. Zoom Test Kitchen, where Zoom fun has begun. Zooming in, we're testing it all. Live on YouTube each week. Audio to video, no feature we won't tweak. We're the Zoom Test Kitchen crew, here to innovate. Join the fun, learn the tech, don't be late. So tune in, don't miss out on this tech fest we lead. Every Friday, Zoom Test Kitchen, where you'll succeed. We'll make your Zoom meeting smooth, keep the tech in check. In the Zoom Test Kitchen, we've got your back, no wreck.
All right. On that note, thanks everyone for joining us this week. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our Zoom Test Kitchen channel to let YouTube know how much you like our content. And don't forget, we're back here every Friday from 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. And see everyone next week for another edition of the Zoom Test Kitchen.